Chapter 16:11. Anyone who had played Super Mario when they were young would know. There were 8 levels in the game, and each level had 4 small levels. But players could find the sky-climbing vines to choose levels. For example, the second level of the first level could be skipped directly to the first level of the fourth level. In the second level of the fourth level, there were hidden gold coins and sky-climbing vines that could be skipped directly to the 8th level. If it was someone else, it would definitely take a long time to clear the 8 levels. Some people couldn't even clear the levels when they grew up. But to Bojio, she was very familiar with this game, and had even studied the programming code. She knew where the hidden compartment was. She sat on the carpet, holding the game controller, and controlling the character in the game. At that time, the game wasn't as cool and vivid as it was now. It was just a little person with something on top of her head, jumping over all the obstacles and moving forward. But even so, William was already dazzled by the scene. After all, he had played Super Mario when he was young. Why hadn't he realized that it was possible to skip levels? And Joe's operation was too nice. However, William wasn't too surprised by this. After all, Joe was good at playing games when she was young. Very quickly, Bojio reached the 8th level. The scene entered. Suddenly, it was blank. Then a photo appeared. It was when she was young. She was wearing a tiger costume, and seemed to be waiting for water to feed her. Bojio didn't have any impression of this picture. Then, the scene returned to the game. It was just that this game had been reprogrammed. Bojio controlled the character. Every time she took a step forward and hit an obstacle, a corresponding sentence would appear. I like you. I liked you when I was young. I liked you when I grew up. Little Bojio, Madam Chin. Come and get your sweets. Bojio couldn't help but smile. William's eyes widened. F***ck. Do Asians use this method to confess their love nowadays? That devil didn't seem like someone who would do such a thing. This was no different from coaxing a child. But Joe fell for this trick. Seriously. William inhaled deeply. He was speechless. The game ended here. There weren't any other levels. This meant that they had passed. But the clues. Bojio glanced at the words. Finally, she lowered her gaze and pulled out all her memories. After sifting through many, only the Royal Hotel was left. 9. William tilted his head in confusion. Bojio suddenly stood up and opened the fridge. It was a must for star-rated hotels. However, after opening the fridge, Bojio's fingers stilled. William grabbed his hair and said, "Who changed everything in the fridge into sugar? Aren't there only some sugar here?" But under so many brightly colored skins of sugar, there was only one, and it was very eye-catching. It was made of black sugar with a Z logo on it. Bojio reached out and took the candy out. Then she realized it was a small message device. This kind of thing, ordinary people really could not get their hands on. But she often used it. Bojio took it, pushed her fingers upwards and turned on the switch. Then a noble and deep voice, with a magnetic texture, slowly came out from inside. Chapter 16:12. In the cartoon, Ding Dang accompanied Big Xiong for 80 years. Before Big Xiong died, he said to Ding Dang, "After I leave, you can go back to where you belong." Ding Dang agreed. After Big Xiong died, Ding Dang used the time machine to go back 80 years. She said to the young Big Xiong, "Hello Big Xiong, I'm Ding Dang." The low and deep aura, when transmitted through the recorder, always gave people a very unreal feeling. Bojio listened, not missing a word. Just when she thought it was over, the voice paused. "Little Bojio, there's a Ding Dang waiting for you now. Do you want to take him away and keep him at home?" As a bystander, this was the first time William completely felt the charm of the Eastern language. Inexplicably, he was reminded of his childhood. At that time, he was really afraid and couldn't stand the hypocritical Eastern prince. But suddenly one day, Joe moved away. The villa not far away no longer had lights. William was also very disappointed at that time. But he was just disappointed. Anyone would be unhappy for 2 days when their best friend disappeared. William felt that the Eastern prince was the same. But later he knew he was wrong. Because one day, he was blocked by the Eastern prince in the corner. William really thought that this guy wanted to expose his devil nature when others weren't around. Unexpectedly, he didn't take action. Instead, he looked at him. After a while he said, "Where did she go?" William saw that the other party's mood wasn't right. He didn't know where Jill was, but he wanted to teach the arrogant Eastern prince a lesson. He immediately raised his chin. "Why should I tell you we aren't friends? Do you remember when you hit me? I was wrong." The very small person lowered his voice. "So where is she?" At that time, William felt that it was unbelievable. After all, the Eastern prince was a scheming person. Usually he would know that he was talking nonsense. But that day he didn't know why. He actually didn't notice anything. He even said to him, "I was wrong." William was so shocked that his eyeballs were about to fall out. In the end, he could only blush and tell the truth. He didn't know where Jill went. He thought he would really get beaten up. But that person didn't do anything. But after that, William would occasionally see a small shadow standing in front of the Bow family's door. Everyone said that Mr. An's grandson was gentlemanly and polite, a living successor of an aristocratic family. But when he stood in front of the Bow family's house, William could only think of a very poor vocabulary. Cold and lonely. It was as if he had been abandoned by the whole world. Many people seemed to have forgotten about Jill. The figure would still be standing there. So much so that even William could not forget his childhood friend. Because she had been waiting for someone. Later, the An family moved their business center back to China. Even so, every year, William would receive a call from that person. She had beaten him in elementary school and in middle school. The only thing she had asked him was whether he had seen the Bow family come back. After that, he didn't call for 3 years. William thought that he had given up. Later, he learned from Old Master and that he had lost his memory. Chinemo was truly a devil. He had never changed since he was young. However, there was one thing that had not changed. Chapter 16:13. To her, liking Chinemo was like a child who didn't have any candy. At first, she just wanted a piece of candy so that she could continue to taste sweetness in her life. She wanted to know what it felt like to like. She wasn't greedy. From that day onwards, when she hugged her little keyboard to sleep, she had learned not to be greedy. In the past, she had been too greedy. But now she had nothing. But he had given her a bag of candy. It seemed as though it would exist as long as she stretched her hand out. She wouldn't have to worry about it disappearing one day. Boju lowered her lids, her silver hair covering her eyes. William couldn't see her expression. Was it too difficult for Gio to solve? Why did that devil recite a clip from a movie about Doraemon? What was he thinking? Even if Gio loved to watch cartoons when she was young, she should have been straightforward. Why did he have to find clues? But what exactly was the clue? William was interested in the game. He touched his chin and studied it. Boju stood up and looked down at him. Car keys. MH. William was still in a daze. Boju slung her black jacket over her shoulders and reached out. Your car keys, I'm going to look for someone. William's eyes widened. You know where he is? Boju replied lazily, MH. William tightened the towel around him. He leaped over and dug out the car keys, tossing them to her even though he was a man and didn't need to be embarrassed. But he had only worn a pair of black underwear for his female companion. Gio's way of entering had been too domineering. He hadn't even had the time to wear his clothes. He had been wrapped in a towel until now. He was curious. How did you know where he is? Didn't the devil just recite a clip from a movie? No, there are many other clues. You are one of the clues. Boju took the car keys and prepared to leave. William followed behind. I'm one of the clues. MHU Super Mario Doraemon. Boju glanced back, a devilish aura emanating from her. It's all related to when I was young. He was telling me that life is like the first time we met. He did it. He has been waiting for me at that place, waiting for me to return. William was stunned. That place? Could it be? Before he could voice out his conjecture, the slender figure had already disappeared around the corner. The receptionist in front of the Royal Hotel was talking to the guest, asking him if he needed to park his car. A red light flashed before his eyes. The wig on top of his head was blown away by the wind. Which customer was driving so fast? This was speeding. Boju didn't look behind, she didn't have the time. It was going to be dark soon. There was still a long way to go. Therefore, she had to be fast. Thus, on this day, in the long silent Fifth Avenue, once again, the siren sounded. This was because a red convertible was not only driving very fast, but even when it encountered a roadblock, it didn't even stop and directly drove past it. When the local officers on duty saw this scene, they got into their cars, shifted gears, and chased after them. It had been a long time since he had seen such a scene. He dared to continue accelerating under the hot pursuit of the police. He had no intention of turning back. She even did a beautiful flick of her tail. She shook off the 3 cars chasing her. Her movements were handsome and arrogant. The smooth arc of the car shuttling between the cars. Her flamboyance was impeccable. The radio station did the corresponding broadcast. Chapter 16:14. Who is he? A young man who wasn't sure asked. Then she heard someone say, Z, it must be him. He's too cool. Z. The young man widened his eyes. It's really Z. The legendary Z. Other than him, there's no one else who can drive like that. And the police can't do anything to him at this time. It wasn't hard to hear the excitement in his voice. It seemed like the MC was a fan of Z too. It wasn't just the MC. When the name Z was mentioned, Mo-chen's eyes lit up. Even the people watching the screen had all sorts of reactions. Z was actually back. Did that mean that the Matrix was going to rise again? No one noticed. Just as this video was being broadcasted, not far away, a man in a suit, who gave off a lazy and elegant aura, held a cigarette between his fingers as his lips curled up into a smile. Uncle, why are you smiling? Nothing. That person retracted his gaze. He seemed to be distracted and shallow. Compared to some people's revelry, William was really in pain. His phone had been ringing nonstop since a while ago. Every message was related to his car. Violation, violation, and violation. William's eyes widened and he grabbed his hair. Gio, what on earth did you drive my car to? At this moment, Gio had already disappeared from everyone's sight. In the past, she had been a low-profile black. Now she was an arrogant red. But no matter which color she was, the appearance of this person meant that the Fifth Avenue would become different again. Some people didn't welcome Z's return, especially the hidden power and money transactions. Didn't they say that the Hacker Alliance had collapsed? Why did this person appear again? A certain gang boss in the Fifth Avenue, who was usually their nemesis for the nightclub territory, didn't fight for the goods. Instead, he made an unprecedented phone call. It was because Z had appeared again. The two bosses temporarily put aside their grudges. They were seriously thinking about how to guard against Z. However, no one knew that they wouldn't just have to guard against Z. The hardest to deal with would be the person beside Z. More importantly, Gio didn't have time to deal with these people. Now she only wanted to see her little princess Qin and tell him that she hadn't changed. The sports car skimmed over the bridge, its body flashing. With another turn, it drove directly into the villa area. It was already dark. Gio lifted her lids and looked into the distance. Because many years had passed, looking at this place now, he felt that it was somewhat different from before. But when she got closer, she realized that the small courtyard surrounded by white logs, the lawn, and the 2-story attic gave Gio an illusion. It was as if the moment he turned around, he would be able to see the person he once knew. The moonlight gradually shone down. Gio walked forward until she reached the innermost villa. A Chinese character was carved on the wooden sign on the fence. The word thin was clearly visible. A familiar slender figure was standing by the fence, with one hand in his pocket and the other holding a piece of paper. That piece of paper should have just been taken out of the mailbox, and he could still see the traces on it. Gio paused and glanced over. Chapter 16:15. Gio suddenly smiled. Her silver hair swayed with the wind. She looked lazy and unruly. Originally, she wanted to walk over and hug him. Then, she would start taking advantage of him. After all, a certain Almighty had said that as long as she found him, he would be hers. Unexpectedly, before she could do anything, she was pulled into his arms. As she breathed, she could smell the fruity aroma of the trees mixed with the minty tobacco on his body. Bojio had always been thick-skinned. After she was hugged, she wrapped her arms around his waist. I was always worried that we wouldn't make it in time. I didn't expect the sky to turn dark. It's okay if it turns dark. Chinemo lowered his gaze. We can still wait for a long time. Bojio looked at him. Then is he mine? I've been yours for a long time. Chinemo lowered his voice, his eyes filled with emotions. After he read the letter, he understood that he wasn't the only one who was upset back then. There were even some typos in the letter. But it didn't affect the meaning she wanted to express. Momo, don't be angry, okay? I'm in a very big castle now. Although Grandpa Butler said that Grandpa would definitely not agree. I still want to ask you, are you willing to stay in the castle with me? I can buy you a lot of writing brushes. Don't you like to write? If you are willing, write back to me. I will definitely come back to get them. Chinemo looked at Momo and said, Momo, I miss you so much. There is no one here to buy me candy to eat, and no one to help me roll up my sleeves. I have already wet a few pieces of my clothes when I was washing my face. I know that you are angry that I went out with William, but I didn't go out to play. Because I was worried that something would happen to my father and mother. I went to pray. Chinemo didn't know how she felt when she came back to get the letter. But the moment he closed his eyes, he seemed to see her wearing little tiger pajamas. She was washing her face with great effort. Her sleeves were always wet, but she was alone because no one was helping her. He remembered that his grandfather had asked him in the past. Was he really going to treat little Tiger Bo so well? At that time, he had thought that since he had decided to raise the child, he had to raise her well. Moreover, a certain someone was extremely stupid. If he didn't raise her well, who would? But he didn't do it. The words on the letter were all crooked. Even his tone was very childish. At that time, was there no one else besides Grandfather Butler by her side? He had told himself that he would take good care of her. But he had failed to do so. Chinemo tightened his grip, his breath landing beside her ear. His voice was magnetic. Little Bojio, let's get married. Marriage? Bojio's eyes sparkled. Now, didn't they say that he wasn't of legal age? Chinemo pushed her hair aside with his fingers. We'll get married overseas first. Can I get married twice? Bojio smiled lightly. All right. Chinemo lowered his lids and planted a kiss on her hair. An old granny lived in the villa next door. When she came in, she saw this scene. She had chatted with the tall young man and asked him why he was standing here and not going in. He said he was waiting for his wife. She asked why they didn't go somewhere to wait. The young man said that his wife would not be able to see him. He wanted that person to be able to see him as soon as he arrived. Chapter 16:16. Old Master and rarely came to the Yin family's side anymore. But he left a butler. It wasn't hard to tell who gave the order, because even the Bo family's house was cleaned and tidy every day. It was still the same, as though no one had left. After Chinemo lost his memory, he had never returned. The butler who stayed had changed from a young man to a gentleman. When he saw Chinemo, the surprise in his eyes was obvious. Chinemo had asked him if anyone from the Bo family had returned. He had shook his head every time. But recently, for some reason, the surveillance footage hadn't been good. But the butler didn't think it was a big problem. The things inside hadn't been missing, so he hadn't mentioned it to Chinemo. Dinner was prepared by a Chinese chef that she had brought over. It was still Chinese food. It wasn't because of anything else but because a certain someone liked to eat it. Hence, before he came, Chinemo had asked the Yin family's chef to fly over in advance. Old Master Yin was happy. Before the chef left, he instructed several times to make more delicious food for little Gio. When Bojio was eating, she was lazy and didn't do anything out of line. She just kept sending text messages. The main target was Lin Feng. Give me a gift. Lin Feng still had a lot of documents to sign. The moment he tugged his collar, he saw the message and was slightly confused. What gift? My Yin captain's gift. You have to give me a double. Bojio replied with chopsticks in her mouth. Lin Feng chuckled. Little spade, you aren't of legal age yet. Why are you giving me a gift? We'll get married tomorrow. Bojio typed. Abroad. No matter how Lin Feng heard it, she sounded like she was showing off. He stood up instantly. Yunhu, who was sitting beside him, pushed his gold-rimmed spectacles up the bridge of his nose nonchalantly. Lin Feng didn't know what he was thinking about. He glanced over. Hey, why don't we go out and get married? Yunhu's fingers paused. He glanced up, his voice slow. Get married? Lin Feng had blurted out that sentence. Now he felt that it wasn't realistic. It was all Little Spade's fault. Cough, I was just joking. How can we get married? Lin Feng sat down. His face was a little flushed. He was indeed too impulsive. No matter what, they were different from others. Recently, he had heard that the Yun family intended to let Huzi enter the government. If that was the case, marriage was indeed too unrealistic. After all, the environment was completely different, and it would affect him. Unlike him, he didn't have so many considerations when doing business. But why was there a vague sense of disappointment in his heart? It was probably because of Yunhu's reaction. Lin Feng told himself not to worry about personal gains and losses. Wasn't it just marriage? What was so good about it? He took a document and continued to sign it. The conference room returned to silence. Yunhu didn't say anything. After signing a few documents, Lin Feng felt a tightness in his chest. He tugged at his tie, grabbed a cigarette, and walked into the smoking room. He didn't know that behind him, Yunhu had picked up his phone and sent 2 words to the person on the other end. Thanks. Chapter 16-17. Our flight is the day after tomorrow. Bojio arched a brow. Senior Lin doesn't know? I think so. Yunhu glanced at the closed smoking room. He didn't respond at all when I asked for his information. Bojio thought to herself. He was still suffering, he didn't even know that his flight ticket had been booked. She smiled and returned to the previous chat, her eyes filled with mischief. Senior Lin, how's your counterattack plan? Very quickly a reply came. What's the rush? One day, I'll sleep with Yunhu until he's satisfied. Is that so? Bojio replied slowly, not believing him at all. I wish you success. I have a plan these 2 days. Lin Feng took a puff of his cigarette. He can forget about escaping. Regardless of whether they got married or not, this person could only be his. He would sleep with him the next day. Bojio reminded him. Don't be suppressed. Are you joking? Who do you think I am? His blind confidence made Bojio's gaze even more playful. She felt as though she was about to witness a good show. But before she could encourage Senior Lin, his phone was taken away. He glanced at her faintly. Madam Qin, it's dinner time now. I don't think I need to remind you to use your phone. With that, he picked up a piece of chicken and sent it to her lips. Bojio opened her mouth and ate it, smiling faintly. Brother Mo, since we are getting married, can we do that thing? What thing? Qin Mo asked slowly. His long and fair fingers finished peeling the prawn, dipping it into the seasoning before feeding it naturally. As Bojio ate, she leaned over. Her handsome face, the cleanness of a youngster, was mixed with a devilish air. Our wedding night. Bang. The butler, who was wearing white gloves, walked over with a bottle of red wine. He was about to refill their glasses when he heard Bojio's words, knocking his head against the wall. As a butler who had lived in the Yin family for so many years, his current level of Chinese was enough to understand the meaning of our wedding night. But didn't the Asians say that they were reserved? Why does Miss Jiu seem to be the same as when she was young? She doesn't know how to be reserved at all. After all, young master was often pounced on by Miss Jiu at that time. But the young master now. The butler turned his head to observe his young master's reaction. Unexpectedly, young master just wiped the corner of his mouth with a napkin, his expression noble and cold. Sure. The butler felt that at this moment he should have disappeared. He was the only one with a weaker tolerance. Bojio wanted to drink another glass of red wine. Unexpectedly, Qin Mo held her wrist and stood up. He lowered his eyes to look at her. Aren't we going to consummate our marriage? Now, why did it feel like the Almighty was more anxious than her? Bojio glanced up. Qin Mo lowered his voice. Have you ever heard of the phrase, no waiting after the deadline? Bojio smiled and stood up. Now was the time. Anyway, when she saw him standing under the streetlight, her hands started to itch. The Almighty's temperament was so cold that it made people want to beat him up. Qin Mo glanced sideways at the person beside him. She looked as though she had stolen honey and was smiling wickedly. His thin lips lifted. She didn't even bother to hide her desire to take advantage of him. Since that was the case. Chapter 16:18. Bojio didn't know what Qin Mo was thinking. She only heard him ask, "Shall we bathe together?" The devilish smile on his face deepened. With a unique laziness he replied, "Sure." After all, the Almighty in the bathroom was a feast for the eyes. The Yin family's villa overseas had a huge bathtub and floor-to-ceiling windows on the other side. She could see the lights below. The bathtub was filled with fresh roses and white foam. Beside the bathtub was a bottle of red wine that had been chilled. "Do you still want to drink?" Qin Mo tilted his head. Bojio smiled faintly. She placed one hand on the side of the bathtub. "No, it's a waste of time." Qin Mo glanced at her, but didn't move. With a swoosh, she pushed him into the bathtub. After his suit was soaked, he looked more handsome and abstinent than ever before. Even though he looked cold, there was a hint of sexiness that made people want to lay their hands on him. Such sexiness coupled with Qin Mo's face was indeed enough to make one's heart itch. Bojio smiled faintly. She lowered her lids and kissed the water droplets on his face. Qin Mo arched a brow. He could feel her hands landing on the button of his shirt. He didn't stop her. Instead he looked at her, his dark eyes a little heavy. Bojio noticed this. Her lips curved upwards as she kissed his neck. Then she moved upwards and kissed his ear. Qin Mo's fingers moved. His back straightened and his gaze deepened. Bojio felt that the Almighty, who was at her mercy, was too tempting. It was true that beauty could fool people. It was also true that a beauty coming out of the bath was especially tempting. Especially now. His suit was wet and his black hair fell down. He didn't look down at all. Instead, he made her want to bite his neck. Bojio did it. Kisses were always pleasing, especially when he cooperated. To Bojio, sitting on someone's body and kissing him here, and there was probably the best way to take advantage of him. It was a delightful feeling. But to Qin Mo, this was far from enough. How could it be? He wanted to hug her fiercely. He wanted her to only have him in her eyes. This thought had never stopped. So, how could a mere kiss satisfy him? The electric curtains on the floor-to-ceiling windows had been pressed by someone. Bojio focused on the delicacy in her mouth. From a light kiss to a deep one. The tip of her tongue still carried the faint scent of red wine. He gently sucked, and the familiar numbness from her tailbone made her body tremble. He didn't know when, but he had become the leader. He reached out his hand, held the back of her head, and began to crazily attack the city. The water in the tub seemed hotter. Bojio's thoughts were burnt to a crisp. In the mirror he saw their reflections. Both his suit and Bojio's t-shirt were drenched. Black hair and silver hair mixed together. When his hands were on her waist, Bojio's mind was filled with snowflakes as his hand reached inside. Bojio felt numb, her eyes glazed over. Chapter 16:19. Faintly, the sounds around her gradually disappeared. At the start, she could still hear the wind outside, but after that, she couldn't hear anything except each other's beating hearts. Unknowingly, the t-shirt on her body had been soaked in the water. It floated on the surface of the water like a blooming, enchanting flower, looking extremely beautiful. His hand pressed against hers, as if he was intentionally guiding her to place her fingertips on his trousers. Even the breath beside her ear was hot. Their positions didn't change. She was still on top. But this made Bojio more passive. The water in the bathtub swayed and ripples formed. When his breath seeped in, Bojio felt her entire body go numb. Her eyes were covered with a layer of mist. She bit down on her thin lips, and even the corners of her eyes were slightly red. The water droplets from the ripples landed on her porcelain white collarbone. This made Qin Mo's body tense to the extreme. Even his eyes were dyed red. Qin Mo wanted to take it slow, but in the end he couldn't help it. He held on to her waist and used a lot of strength. Bojio trembled. The numbness was like a storm, sweeping her entire body along with the water. It was hot everywhere. She wanted to move, but she couldn't use any strength in her arms and legs. It was so urgent and close. It made her whole body go numb. Bojo wanted to grab onto something, but his fingers interlocked and held it in his hands. Hugging the person she liked would probably cause her to sink. Little Bojo. His voice was deep as he called her name continuously. His strength increased, causing Bojo to sink deeper and deeper. She couldn't resist at all. Instead, the numbness made her want to get closer and tighter to him. She could see the sweat on his forehead and the tense side of his face. Once his abstinence was broken, it was a charming handsomeness. She liked this kind of beauty because only she could see him like this. It was a taboo bewitchment. It was as though she had dyed the high and mighty god with a tinge of darkness. The temperature of the entire bathroom was rising. The fog was rising everywhere. The water in the bathtub surged out again and again, spilling out of the bathtub. The rose petals stuck to her body, accentuating the Z tattoo on her waist, making it look devilishly beautiful. Bojo could only follow his movements, falling into a trance. Finally, he stopped. Bojo's hands were weak, and she wanted to push him away. He whispered into her ear, "You're not the one who wants to be on top, huh?" "Not this way." Bojo's breathing was in a mess. Chinemo kissed her neck. "Which method is it?" "I'll lead." Bojo's eyes lit up. Chinemo took the opportunity when she was in a daze to press down on her waist. "You're too weak. It's not fun. But your current state makes me want to destroy you." Bojo bit down on her lips, as if that was the only way she could stop herself from making a sound. Bojo frowned, biting her lips even harder. He waved his finger over, and his voice was low and coaxing. "Call me by my name, and I'll let you go." Chapter 16:20. Chinmo's eyes widened. It was as though the only way to relieve the deep desire was to hug her tightly in his arms. The last thread broke when she lowered her eyes. Needless to say, those seductive black eyes. Chinemo turned his hand quickly. He didn't want to let her enjoy herself anymore. Instead, he pushed her against the edge of the bathtub. She couldn't hear any other sounds. There was only his panting and the sound of her name over and over again. When she came back to her senses, he had already carried her up and placed her on the bed. His voice was still deep. "You're right. We shouldn't stop." Compared to the previous 2 times, he didn't have to worry anymore. This time, he seemed to be more unrestrained. He knew how to make a woman happy. He was like a demon who specialized in bewitching people. He tore apart the layer of elegance and nobility. Enough. Her breathing was hurried. She wanted him to slow down. But he pressed against the deepest part of her. "Is it really enough?" Bojo didn't say anything. After a heavy tremble, her fingertips gripped the pure white bedsheets beneath her. Her snow-white skin had a faint blush. No one came to disturb her. Hence, she didn't have to care about anything else. The sound from the European-style bed echoed in the entire bedroom. It didn't seem like it was going to stop. Bojo really underestimated the man's explosive power after enduring for a period of time. She couldn't resist at all. And after enduring for so long, Chinemo definitely wouldn't let go of the person in his arms. These few days, all the images he could imagine were put into action. It wasn't as simple as holding her in his arms and bullying her. He didn't use any protective measures. In the past, he was worried that he would hurt her. He didn't just use protective measures. He would even take a cold shower after he was done with her. But this time he didn't do anything. He didn't control himself. Instead, when she was in a daze again, he lowered his voice and said in her ear, "Give birth to a child that belongs to us, Mrs. Chin." Because of this sentence, Bojo's eyes focused again. There was an unprecedented light in her eyes. Okay. She probably decided to have a child. Hence that night. Chinemo didn't let go of Bojo. He didn't stop until she couldn't take it anymore. He carried her horizontally and entered the bathroom. Very gently. Just like before, when he lost his memory, he squatted beside the bathtub and cleaned the traces on her body. Chapter 16:21. The cleaning didn't take long. Men who had been in the army usually had good stamina. Moreover, Chinemo had come from the special forces. Hence, it didn't affect him much. He reached out and pulled the towel over, wrapping it around her body. Then he bent down and carried her out of the bathtub. She moved a little, feeling a little resistant. Qin Emo lowered his lids and kissed the corner of her eye. His voice was still hoarse, but there was a pampering tone that wasn't present in front of others. Stop fooling around, I'll take you to bed. The person in his arms relaxed her body. When she wrapped her arms around Qin Mo's waist, she didn't forget to say, mine. It's yours. Qin Emo ran his fingers through her hair. After he placed her on the bed, he couldn't help kissing her forehead. He probably wouldn't be able to find such a possessive person. At this moment, Bojio was still lazy. She was half asleep and didn't feel any difference in her body. Instead, the person she was hugging had a slightly cold skin, which was suitable for sleeping. When she woke up the next day, her back was sore. She wanted to lie on the sofa, not wanting to move at all. Why did she eat more than him when they were both eating the same food? Why was his stamina so much better than hers? Bojio's long legs were placed on the sofa. She supported her chin as she drank the milk. When she looked at Qin Emo, there was an obvious gloominess in her eyes. At the end of the day, she was lacking in stamina. If she really wanted to do anything to the Almighty, she would have to rely on some special methods. But this was her territory anyway. The Fifth Avenue was nearby. She would be able to get some things. After she recovered, she would go to the Black Brothers and ask for some special ones. She would use them all on the Almighty. When Bojio was halfway through her drink, her gaze landed on Qin Emo, who was helping her to blow the medicinal soup. Her gaze deepened. Qin Emo took a glance and knew what she was thinking. He used the spoon to touch her lips. Don't do anything bad these 2 days, understand? Do I still have the energy to do bad things in this state? Bojio took a sip. It was too bitter. She leaned over and touched his lips. What's that taste? Qin Emo arched a brow. It's bitter. Bojio leaned her head against his shoulder lazily. How long are we going to drink? Qin Emo lowered his lids to look at a certain someone who wanted to be naughty even after drinking medicine. After thinking for a moment, he drank the medicine, pinched her chin and kissed her. Bojio chuckled lightly. She savored the taste and smiled devilishly. Brother Emo, you're getting better. I realize you're getting more and more undisciplined. Qin Emo said as he wiped her thin lips with a napkin. Does your back still hurt? Bojio arched a brow. It hurts. That would probably make the Almighty feel guilty. Oh. Qin Emo stood up, adjusting his sleeves. I won't be carrying you to the wedding venue. Bojio. Qin Emo looked at her expression and suddenly laughed again. He lowered his lids. Is it really painful or fake? Forget about the pain. I just want to kiss you until your legs turn to jelly. Bojio narrowed her eyes. Qin Emo caressed her head. There is a difference between dreaming and dreaming. After saying that, he brought over another bowl of food. Bojio pursed her lips, feeling slightly depressed. There's more? Chapter 1622. Give birth? That was when Bojio remembered what she had promised him last night. She personally liked the little bean the most. It was just that she had never thought that one day, she would have a child. Now that the Almighty had mentioned it, her eyes lit up. Drinking this is good for giving birth? Bojio didn't like red dates, but she was very cooperative now. Qin Emo looked at her and arched a brow. You seem very happy? Of course. Bojio didn't hide it at all. She kissed the side of his face. I like babies. Brother Mo, you have to work hard. Qin Emo smirked. How hard? Are you sure? Bojio's waist hurt from his smirk. She nestled in his arms and drank the red date tea in one gulp. It was wisest not to speak now. Qin Emo lowered his head and glanced at the person in his arms. He could faintly hear her voice. You can't drink that wine, it's not good for the baby. She sounded as though she was already pregnant. But it seemed like she really liked it. Otherwise, it wouldn't be possible for her to be smiling. She was reading a lot of things and every single one of them was related to children. She even became nonchalant when he asked her questions. Qin Mo's eyes deepened. He took her phone and placed it at the side. Why hadn't he thought of it before? Just the appearance of little Emo Bay was enough to divert her attention. If there was another child, Qin Emo suddenly regretted it. His voice was calm and emotionless. There's no need to rush. We can talk about it 2 years later. We have to let nature take its course. Is that so? Bojo smiled mischievously. Anyway, it shouldn't be difficult if she wanted to. It seemed like she still had to find something from the Black brothers. After all, the person in front of her wasn't easy to sleep with. Yes. Chinemo pinched her face. Don't think of any other tricks. Behave. Bojo arched a brow. I'm very obedient. I'm asking little Bei to attend our wedding. After all, her master has finally married her master's wife. Let her be the flower girl. Mistress. Chinmo's voice deepened because of the title. The moment she caught sight of the handsome face in front of her, she immediately changed the topic. I'll see how I can get her a visa, so she can come over with Almighty Yun and the rest. In the end, it was not an excuse. After all, it was not easy to get a visa for the Fifth Avenue. Of course, he had to contact them in advance. Since it was a wedding, how could he be complete without his good friends? About this point, Chinemo felt the same way, so he didn't continue to correct her for calling him master's wife. It was when Bojo was sending a message to Yun Hu. He also took out his phone and pressed his slender fingers on the screen. He took a picture of the invitation card for the wedding venue that the butler had prepared earlier. They were sent to William and Hoshino. When William received the message, he was still reminiscing about the times when he and Gio were young, but when he saw the invitation, he was strangely unhappy. This devil was really ruthless. It was so early in the morning, and he was already making her so unhappy. Chapter 16:23. The cat seemed to have noticed the vibration of the phone and meowed. Hoshino, on the other hand, looked at the content of the message and raised his brows. He could still see the green bamboo in the message, and the gentleness of a bandit. He knew very well what Chinemo was thinking. However, he really didn't expect Z to get married one day. Those dusty emails in the online world were probably to confirm that she was still there. Now she was finally not alone. Hoshino couldn't describe the feeling in his heart. He was happy and empty at the same time. After all, she was his young lord. He raised his hand and took a sip of coffee. Just as he was about to reply, a hand suddenly reached out and took the phone from his hand. It was Yu Cixin. He seemed to have just gotten out of bed. His long hair was tied loosely behind him. He was wearing black pajamas and his half-exposed skin was very fair. His sharp handsomeness and evilness increased as he took the phone. Both of them were about the same height. Hoshino was at most 2 centimeters taller than Yu Cixin. But this had made Yu Cixin very unhappy in the past. Now he was unhappy about Hoshino's reaction. He pressed the phone screen and replied on his behalf. I wish you two a long life together. I will attend the wedding. Hoshino glanced at him. Don't reply randomly. What do you mean by randomly? Yu Cixin smiled. Even the corners of his lips were evil, and he had the aura of a gangster. Our vice-captain, don't tell me that you don't even dare to attend a wedding. Hoshino caressed the cat beside his hand. He didn't linger on this question, and just reached his hand over. Yu Cixin narrowed his eyes and suddenly smiled. He placed the phone back in Hoshino's hand. I'll go with you and do some business. Your uncle is still eyeing you. Are you sure you want to leave at this time? Hoshino's voice was very calm. Yu Cixin's gaze deepened. He has been eyeing me for a long time. Yu Cixin paused for a moment. Don't worry, I won't ruin Z's wedding. After all, I hope that she will get married soon. That way, you won't have to keep your promise. It's really annoying to provide clues for the Bo family for generations. Hoshino paused for a moment before replying softly. I volunteered to provide her with clues. Yu Cixin scoffed. So what? She still married someone else. Hoshino didn't say anything else and strolled into the room. Yu Cixin laughed and smashed the coffee cup on the table. When Hoshino came out again, what he saw was the man sitting on the sofa, watching the TV lazily. There was a mess under his feet. He walked over and called someone over to pack up. Yu Cixin said lazily, You don't have to, just leave it like that. The man in black didn't know what to do. He looked at young Master Hoshino and then at his boss. Hoshino's voice was soft as he looked down at him. You want to attend the wedding like this? Yu Cixin glanced up and muttered, "It's not that you don't want me to go. I didn't say that." Hoshino kept the things. The man in black noticed it too. The moment young Master Hoshino said that, the ruthless and cold aura on his master was finally gone. Chapter 1624. On the other side, the night before in Jiang City, Lin Feng was a little depressed. He couldn't put his finger on it. Anyway, it was a social occasion. He just drank some wine casually. When he was dressed in a suit, he would always look especially handsome after drinking, with a lazy sexiness. At the table, the other CEOs asked, "Brother Lin, you're really young and influential." Lin Feng wasn't very drunk, he replied humbly, "No, it's the people in the company." "Brother Lin, how's your love life? Do you need me to introduce a girlfriend to you?" The moment he finished his sentence, someone touched his shoulder. That person was enlightened. He seemed to have heard that this person from the Lin family had a different taste. "Ha ha ha, look at me, I just like to be a matchmaker, I'm used to it. Let's drink." "Ha ha ha, look at me. I just like to be a matchmaker. I've gotten used to it." But honestly speaking, at such an occasion, there would definitely be people coming in to accompany them. But to be honest, in this kind of occasion, there would definitely be people coming in to drink with them. After all, there were a lot of beauties coming in. Basically, they sat beside each other. But among so many people, their favorite seat was definitely beside Lin Feng. However, among so many people, their favorite spot was definitely beside Lin Feng. The beauty picked up the wine pot and filled his cup again. Her eyes seemed to be saying, "Such a handsome man. Even if it's just business, I don't know who's sleeping with whom." This was the first time she had such a high-quality customer. Of course, she had to make good use of it. It was the first time she had such a high-quality customer. Of course, she had to make good use of it. And she could tell that this handsome guy was hiding something. At this moment, it should be the best time to approach him. Indeed, Lin Feng wasn't so guarded today. The main thing was that he didn't understand why Yin Hu didn't agree when he mentioned marriage. Although he understood. Damn it. He couldn't accept it at all. Lin Feng lowered his lids and finished another glass of wine. He reached out and pulled his collar, his fringe falling down as he lit his cigarette. It was really mesmerizing. The girl leaned closer to him. But for some reason Lin Feng took a step back. He seemed to be sober as he muttered to himself, "He doesn't like people touching me." The girl thought that Lin Feng was talking about his girlfriend. She didn't think it was a big deal. If he didn't let her accompany him today, she would have to accompany someone else. Hence, the girl hoped that Lin Feng could drink more. As it turned out, Lin Feng had indeed drunk a little too much. He was even a little shaky. When the dinner was almost over, the girl wanted to help him up. Swoosh. The door was pulled open. Everyone's body froze. After seeing the figure outside clearly, they all stood up. After all, the Yun family had brought Yin Hu out for activities. Therefore, these people still recognized the young master of the Yun family. It was just that he didn't seem to be easy to get in touch with. After all, it was normal for people who stood in that position. Now that they saw him here, they were stunned for a moment. Then they hurriedly stood up. But before they could greet each other. Chapter 1625. It was just a polite sentence. They understood what he meant. Mainly, they knew that Boss Lin was different from others. However, he had never imagined that his partner would be young Master Yin. They had assumed that Lin Feng had a small celebrity as his mistress. After all, they liked this kind of lifestyle. Who would have thought that it would be like this? His other half was such a powerful person, and he had come out personally to handle business. What was going on? This was great. Young Master Yin had come personally to catch him. Would they dare to not let him go? They were even afraid that young Master Yin would misunderstand and think that they wanted Boss Lin to do something out of line. They hurriedly thanked him. "If there's a chance in the future, we will be the host. Young Master Yin, you must give us face. We'll talk about it in the future." Yin Hu's gaze was hard to read. "Thank you for taking care of him today. Everyone." Was he really thanking them or just pretending? It was probably because the voice was too familiar. When Lin Feng heard it, he glanced down instinctively. Yin Hu? Congratulations, our young master Lin still knows who I am. Yin Hu's voice was neither fast nor slow. However, Lin Feng could still hear the unhappiness in her voice. He hadn't even thrown a tantrum. Why did Huzi make the first move to gain the initiative? No, he couldn't leave. He had to have a good talk with him. Lin Feng tugged his collar. After leaving the room, he pressed Yin Hu against the wall, his handsome face reeking of alcohol. I'm very annoying, do you know that? Annoying? Yin Hu's gaze sank because of this word. He pushed him away and arched a brow. Why? Do you think I interrupted your good time? Because of the alcohol, Lin Feng was tongue-tied. What good time? Don't change the topic. Yin Hu still wanted to say something. Just then, someone walked out. It was the beauty sitting beside Lin Feng. She looked at Lin Feng with obvious reluctance. That reluctance pierced Yin Hu's eyes. This made the possessiveness that he hadn't felt in a long time rise again. Without any hesitation, he stretched out his hand to stop the man who reeked of alcohol, and planted a fierce kiss on his thin lips. His right hand exerted force. He didn't give the man any chance to resist. It seemed that only in this way could he calm down and listen to his explanation. Both of them were wearing suits and had the same slender figure. At this time, separated by the hotel's bamboo curtain, it gave people an indescribable sense of beauty. This kiss was seen by many people. The person who had sent the message to Yin Hu thought, this time, no one would dare to drag Lin Feng to such a place. Even if they were doing business, they had to consider where they should eat. After all, no one wanted to provoke the young master of the Yin family. Some of the merchants did understand, and did not keep quiet after seeing it. The girl, on the other hand, paused for a moment, then her whole body stiffened, because she was the closest to the two people. Among them, the young master didn't look at her in a friendly manner. Especially after the kiss, he glanced over at her through the bamboo curtain, as if to say that this guy was mine. Lin Feng seemed to have calmed down by the kiss. He didn't know why, but he started laughing. Then he raised his hand and covered his eyes. I seem to have drunk too much. You allowed others to get close to you because you drank too much? Yin Hu pressed his head. MH. Chapter 1626. Yin Hu was about to ask what was bothering him. That person immediately straightened his back, and seemed to be very serious. In reality, he was still drunk. He looked at him with dark eyes. Why did you hesitate when I said I wanted to marry you? Marriage? The surrounding people were all shocked. Only Yin Hu looked at his tipsy face and asked, when did I hesitate? Can't I tell if you hesitated or not? Lin Feng leaned there and lit a cigarette, probably to sober himself up. It's really annoying. Yin Hu looked at him and took the cigarette from his fingers. His gaze landed. So you are annoyed because you think I hesitated? What do you mean I think at that time? Don't think that he forgot his attitude just because he was drunk. Unfortunately, Lin Feng didn't finish his sentence. Yin Hu interrupted him, his voice unhurried. I was replying to Zi's message at the time. Also, I had already bought a plane ticket overseas for you to get married overseas. That day, you gave me your household register and information. Did you forget about it? Lin Feng stilled, his handsome face a little dazed. Isn't that for the company's business expansion? Household register and passport for business expansion? Yin Hu arched a brow. Lin Feng grabbed his hair. King embarrassing. There was no one nearby, right? How could there be no one? Basically, everyone in the business circle was here. But because this was young Master Yun's melon, no one dared to interfere. However, the topic of marriage really shocked them. Those two weren't just playing around. Were they getting married? With Boss Lin's conditions, if the other party was a businessman and said he was serious, they might believe him. But he was young Master Yin. Ever since the Lin family declined, even if young Master Yin wanted to play around with Boss Lin, he wouldn't have to worry. After all, the Yin family was in power now. But marriage? Everyone's eyes were filled with astonishment. Lin Feng sensed their gazes and sobered up. Basically, he understood what a pain in the ass he had gotten himself into. Even he didn't know why, but whenever Yin Hu was involved, he would be especially concerned. Or rather, he felt insecure. Anyway, he couldn't explain it. He felt that they just knew each other for a long time. The more Lin Feng socialized, the more he thought about it. He knew very well what men's meals were like every day. In the future, when that person's status reached a certain level, there would be many people who would think of ways to send people to him. Even if it wasn't a girl, she could still give it to a boy. The rules after adulthood were basically the same. Once or twice he might not be tempted. But after that? He had always liked men, right? Lin Feng felt annoyed just thinking about this. She wasn't afraid that they couldn't be together anymore. It would be better to say that he was afraid. When the time came, even if he discovered that the other party had ulterior motives, he would not want to let go. If he let go, he would still be envious and disgusted. But if they were just brothers, there wouldn't be any of this. He didn't want to become that kind of person, begging for love all the time. But at the same time, Lin Feng truly understood one thing. It was getting harder and harder for him to leave such a person. She even had the thought of marrying this person. He had really gone crazy. That was why he cared about that person's reaction at that time. Chapter 1627. I'm asking you a question. Do you need a household register and passport to expand your business? Yin Hu repeated his words. Lin Feng coughed lightly. When he came back to his senses, he stuttered. Did you just say you're going overseas to get married? MMH. Yin Hu glanced over. Lin Feng tugged his collar again, not looking at him. Are we really getting married? Are you shy, almighty Lin Feng? In the past, whenever Yin Hu teased Lin Feng, he would use the word almighty when they were playing games. Lin Feng glanced up. When have I ever been shy? I was just surprised. You should have told me in advance that you're getting married in such a hurry. I could have gotten my secretary to prepare a set of clothes or something. And I've already prepared everything for you. Yin Hu smiled faintly. You just need to tell the priest that you are willing when he asks you. Lin Feng's face was burning. Oh. Yin Hu asked again. Are you sober? I woke up a long time ago. You came in so suddenly. Those who don't know might think someone owes you money. Lin Feng had been rather handsome during the meal, but the moment he was in front of Yin Hu, he naturally became talkative. Yin Hu smiled leisurely, reaching out to grab his wrist, his voice calm. Since you're sober, let's talk about how you almost cheated on me just now. Cheated? F***ck. That was a huge accusation. When did he cheat? He just drank a little too much. Lin Feng opened his mouth, wanting to say something. But when Yin Hu passed by the beauty standing there, he paused slightly. Do you need to bid farewell to your lover? Lin Feng didn't need to say anything. Had he really been caught in the act? He hadn't done anything. However, Lin Feng also knew that someone seemed to be very close to him just now. Before he left, Yin Hu had said that he could socialize but not let anyone touch him. That terrifying possessiveness. Why hadn't he noticed it in the past? After Yin Hu brought him away, the businessmen inside walked out. Only then did the merchants who were standing inside walk out. Apart from feeling incredulous, they couldn't believe it. Then another figure walked over with a beautiful woman in his arms. His smile was charming. Everyone can see it now. Young Master Yin doesn't seem to like his wife coming to this kind of place. It's a social event after all. Go to more formal places in the future. Everyone. As young Master Li who talks business here every day, is it appropriate for you to say this? After returning to the car, Yin Hu tossed the jacket in his hand to the side. It was Lin Feng's jacket. He was so drunk that he didn't even know to wear his suit jacket. That was what Yin Hu was most concerned about. Of course, he was also touched by someone else. Yin Hu was afraid of one thing. Because this person had always liked girls. It wasn't easy for him to accept him, to start in this way. If there really was a girl who deliberately seduced him and lured him away, after he tried it, he still felt that girls were better. What should he do? Therefore, he really didn't want him to come to such a place. Chapter 1628. How is that possible? What nonsense are you talking about? Lin Feng leaned back, the back of his ears burning. You don't have to be in such a position. Yinhu didn't move. You were closer to someone just now. Are they very close? Lin Feng's eyes flickered. Then he pushed her away, and the two of them switched places. I'm serious. I was just annoyed just now, but I'm not annoyed now. If someone gets closer to me, I'll definitely push them away. Besides, I've already done that with you, so why would I still be interested in women? What before? They were both pressed against the car, but Yinhu's aura had changed. He was much more relaxed. Lin Feng replied, "That a good time." Yinhu arched a brow. Can I understand that no matter what happens in the future, you won't touch anyone else? That's for sure. Lin Feng glanced at him, frowning. Are you really worried that I'll be interested in someone else? MMH. The unexpected answer made Lin Feng pause for a moment. Yinhu pressed the back of his head, his thin lips landing on the corner of his mouth. He bit down heavily, his voice even lowering. You don't seem to have realized how many rotten peach blossoms there are around you. Regardless of whether it's a man or a woman, they always challenge my bottom line. There's still a love letter from your first love in the drawer. Lin Feng opened his mouth. I forgot to throw it away. Didn't you snatch my first love away? Besides, I didn't even fall in love with her and you guys got together. It's a little unfair. Indeed, logically speaking, I shouldn't be like this. I've always felt that people who struggle with their past aren't generous, but when it's you, I can't be generous at all. Yinhu looked at him. I don't like to open your drawer and see things related to the girl who has a crush on you. Lin Feng was slightly surprised because of Yinhu's serious expression. He had never expected Yinhu to feel uneasy. He had always thought that he was the only one who felt uneasy. But now it seemed like if he really liked someone, would there be times when he would worry about his gains and losses? I'll throw it away. At this point, Lin Feng changed the topic. Shouldn't you remind Li Yu not to always send people to your side? Do you really think I'm dead? Yinhu paused and suddenly laughed. He wouldn't dare. He gave it to me in the past. Lin Feng narrowed his eyes. He had an expression that said, Don't think that I don't know. It was very handsome. Yinhu replied slowly. That was a long time ago. When you didn't agree to it, he gave it to me once and I smashed his shop. Lin Feng. Indeed, he had nothing to say. Compare my attitude to the person who came knocking on my door and look at you. Yinhu straightened his back and tidied his collar. Don't you feel ashamed? Lin Feng felt that this direction wasn't quite right. When she came back to her senses, she was kissed again. It's so unsafe. Hurry up and follow me overseas to get a stamp. This was Yinhu's last sentence as his breath faded. Overseas, Fifth Avenue. William, an international friend, had always thought that being the best man was challenging enough. He didn't expect that devil Qin Mo to let him run the field. Did he look like a worker? He was the son of a world-class director. Chapter 1629. It was useless to say okay. He still had to find him. At this time, he had to show off his wealth in front of the Eastern Devil. Hence, William invited a lot of people out that day. Basically, there were people from all professions, just to show off in front of Qin Mo. One of them felt bored. Is there anything? If there's nothing, I'll go back first. You'll be playing games when you go back. What's so good about facing the computer? William lowered his voice. Just you wait. That devil will be here soon. That person was indeed interested in playing games, but he wasn't interested in Asians at all. William's description of him was a little too exaggerated. How could Asians be so powerful? In the game, they were often abused by him. Not to mention in real life. He had already invested a lot of money in the gaming club under the company. He was preparing to enter some competitions. Of course, he didn't have time to waste here. Come and find me when Asians are as tall as me. That person stood up and was about to leave. The door was pushed open. It was Qin Mo. He wasn't wearing a suit, just a simple shirt and trousers, but his noble aura made the person opposite him pause. Sometimes, to see if a person had status, other than the watch, there was another thing that could show it. That was the buttons on his cuffs. But this time, the cufflinks Qin Mo wore were given to him by Bojio. In some ways, Bojo had always been more luxurious than Chinemo. It was enough to show the value of the cufflinks. Putting aside the amount of money, many people wanted to get their hands on it, but it had already been bought by someone else in an auction. Businessmen wanted this as an embellishment. Abbott was one of them. When he caught sight of Chinmo's right sleeve, his gaze shifted, and he glanced over slowly. William, on the other hand, was panicking. What should he do? The devil must have heard what he said. Based on the devil's personality, he would definitely seek revenge for this matter. He hadn't forgotten the devil's background. Obviously, Abbott didn't realize what was wrong with him. He was still very polite in front of others. He smiled lightly. Are you the Asian friend William knows? Chinemo lifted his lids casually, replying indifferently, MMH. This allowed Abbott to quickly define him. On the surface, he seemed to have a strong aura, but in fact he was like most of the Easterners he knew. He was not good with words and did not know how to communicate with others. Previously, several universities had rejected many Asians because of this incident. He admitted that the Easterners were very strong in terms of specialization, but in other aspects, they were very average. To prevent William from deifying this person in front of him in the future, he might as well break it now. Moreover, he was very interested in the cufflinks on the man's sleeves. Speaking of which, it was strange that this cufflink had fallen into the hands of an Asian. Abbott's golden eyes smiled with some arrogance. I heard that you want William to help you find a wedding venue. Help. Chinemo pondered the word. The back of William's neck stiffened. All right, he had received money before. Abbott continued. Some venues can only be visited by locals, but you can find them with William's connections, but it's not free, sir. Oh. Chinemo arched a brow. Chapter 1630. William wanted to ask if he could keep his mouth shut. Chinemo had already opened his mouth. What's the compromise? It's not good to ask for payment directly. I've been playing games recently. I heard from William that you've played games before. Let's have a competition. If you win, we'll help you with the venue and other things. After saying that, Abbott smiled. If you lose, I'll take this cufflink on your sleeve as the reward. How about it? Chinemo glanced at his cufflink, still noble. Although I've already paid you, I don't like it when others have designs on my things. What game? Hero, how about it? Abbott hadn't expected him to have already paid him, but since the other party had agreed, it would be good to proceed according to the script he had written. Chinemo raised his brows slowly. Hero? That's right, Hero. You should know how to play it. After all, it's such a popular game. Abbott didn't hear the hidden meaning behind Chinmo's words. Chinemo tugged at his collar, his emotions calm. I know how to play. There's no computer here, and the server is more complicated than the mobile game. Let's play the mobile game faster. Abbott took out his phone. Chinemo had already uninstalled the game when he arrived. He glanced up at William. Give me a phone with a game. When Abbott heard this, he was even more convinced that the person in front of him, whom William called a devil, was more or less exaggerated. At least in terms of gaming, he should be average. Otherwise, it would be impossible for there to be no heroes on his phone. William, who was familiar with Chinemo, wanted to remind his friend that the almighty devil was scary like this. My phone can only have my account. William was still struggling. Chinemo glanced at him. Then we'll use your account. I just started playing. I don't have anything. To be honest, William was really bad at games and he didn't have much time to play games. With so many beauties accompanying him, who would want to play games, right? Anyway, he didn't play games because he was bad. Chinmo's voice was calm. As long as you have a role. What else could William say? He pushed the phone forward. He really couldn't afford to offend the almighty devil. Ebert reached out and patted his back. Hey, seriously, raise your head. William, shut up. What do you know? Ebert was still laughing. That account of yours doesn't have anything, right? You're not good at it usually. Just watch how I beat him. William replied. I'm not good at it. Devil, torture him. Albert didn't know what was going on, so he first logged in. He was good friends with William, so it was convenient for him to invite William over. Chinemo glanced at William's account. There wasn't anything. Fortunately, there was an assassin he could use. Albert was still very gentlemanly. Do you want to change numbers? There's no need. Qin Mo's long fingers moved back and forth, adjusting the settings. Come on. At this moment, a figure walked in. Her silver hair matched her black t-shirt, and her skin was the fair skin of a vampire noble. Her lips curled into a smile. I found you. William opened his mouth. 9mh? Bojo walked past him, glancing at his hands. Game? Chapter 1631. Competing with Brother Mo in gaming? Bojo arched a brow when she heard the news, a devilish smile on her face. This laugh really brought out the shadows of William's childhood. Every time Joe acted like this, someone was going to be in trouble. Albert didn't understand what was going on. Just then, the silver-haired pretty youngster walked towards him and patted his shoulder. Excuse him. Albert was confused. What did she mean? Brother, I'm impressed. Bojo smiled faintly, turning towards the people on the other side. Isn't your friend good at gaming? The people on William's side laughed. Of course, Albert is half a professional gamer. Oh. Bojo's eyes lit up. Do you want to bet on who will win? Are you sure? I'll bet on Albert. I'm sure. It was time to earn some extra money. If Bojo had a silver white tail behind her, it would definitely be wagging. Her thoughts were clear in his eyes. He didn't stop her. Daily entertainment could make her more innocent. After all, her rebellious period was rather long. Albert said, My friend, you should bet less. I'm afraid you'll lose too much. Bojo smiled faintly. Oh. The person on the other side introduced. Albert is really knowledgeable about gaming and has been investing in it recently. His team is going to participate in the international competition soon. You really shouldn't play with him. Bojo replied nonchalantly. Let's play first, we'll talk after. She was in a hurry to collect the money. William shifted over. Can you really play? Uh-huh. Bojo asked, How rich is he? William took a moment. He's very rich, he wants the devil's button. It would have been fine if he hadn't mentioned the button. But the moment William did, Bojo glanced over and said slowly, Then I'll bet more money. William thought. You look like you're trying to bankrupt the other party. Ebert didn't seem bothered, his fingers moving slightly as he said to Qin Mo. Why don't I give you a minute and let you get your equipment first? After all, it's gambling now and your friend seems to have high hopes for you. Lover. Qin Mo replied with 2 words. Abbott didn't understand. That's my lover. Qin Mo replied calmly. Ebert paused for a moment. Didn't they say that Asians were more reserved? Where were they reserved? Hey Albert, you can't just be in a daze. A voice came from the side. We all bet on you. Albert confidently chose the character he was best at. Coming right up. Winning was a piece of cake for him. The other side had chosen a squishy assassin. Against a support tank like him, they would definitely lose. Friend, you really don't understand this game at all. It's not the assassin style anymore. If it's a 1v1, it still depends on the tank. Albert slid his fingers. But don't worry. Since you're William's friend, I'll go easy on you. As Albert spoke, he controlled his character to rush out. There are no big screens here. The men crowded around Albert, watching. Bojo took out a small notebook. Qin Mo multitasked, glancing up at her. What are you doing? Chapter 1632. William. Have you thought it through? Was the devil good at gaming? William was a terrible gamer. He didn't pay attention to professional competitions, and was far away from him. Hence, he didn't know that Qin Mo was a professional gamer. Albert's men were excited to see how he would torture the opponent. Hence, they didn't notice the commotion. Albert had been clearing the soldiers for a long time, and had started to attack the tower, but he didn't see anyone on the map. Was the opponent so afraid that he didn't dare to come? William, ask your friend to come out. If he doesn't come out, how are we going to fight? The person on the other side laughed. Before he could finish his sentence, Albert suddenly paused beside them. Following that, A crisp sound effect rang in his ears. First blood. First blood? Albert killed someone? They lowered their lids and looked at the screen. Their eyes froze and they opened their mouths in disbelief. Albert, how did you die? Albert hadn't expected this either. All he did was fill in a line of minions. He had been cut off from the back. That person, how did he appear so quickly? Besides, he was a support tank. If it was a 1v1, it was impossible for a tank to lose to an assassin. The other party had been low on HP. If he had been any closer, the other party would have been dead. I didn't notice. Albert ignored the part that had dazzled him and caused him to miss out on his skills. Wait a moment. Albert decided not to waste any more time. He would head straight to the other party's territory to find him. Thus, the resurrected Ebert walked towards the river without a second thought. With the mist as a cover, the other party wouldn't be able to see where he was. But that was just Albert's idea. Before he could cross the river, the vision that Qin Mo had set up in the jungle was effective. Abbott, on the other hand, sensed the danger and wondered if he should retreat. But the silver figure beside him was one step faster. It lifted him up and hit him with a big move. Albert was still in a daze. Why was the damage so high? Wasn't the other party using William's account? William's account shouldn't have any damage. Wait a minute, finances. How could the other party's finances be so much higher than his? Albert wanted to retreat. However, he realized that Qin Mo seemed to be able to predict every step he took. Even his landing spot was grasped clearly by Qin Mo very soon. The music started playing again. Albert looked at himself lying in the game, and then at the silver-white figure who had recovered half of his HP. His eyes began to waver. The expression of the person standing next to him also changed. Albert, you again? What's the hurry? I'm a late-game hero. Abbott blushed. He lifted his head and looked at Qin Mo, who was moving his fingers casually. Once I develop, it will be different. At this moment, Qin Mo placed his phone to the side and stuffed a hand into his pocket. He said calmly, I'll wait for you to clear the troops first. If you continue fighting, your home will be gone. Albert paused. This time, he realized that the last defense tower on his path was gone. This guy, he's been cutting off the line of soldiers all along. No need. Ebert gritted his teeth. Fight however you want. Is that so? Qin Mo arched a brow, reaching for his phone again. Chapter 1633. So arrogant? Albert's eyes darkened. This was his territory, he thought. If he wanted to forcefully demolish it, he would let him die here. After Albert recovered his mana, he released a skill, wanting to kill Qin Mo. At this moment, even if their finances were much worse, he would still have an advantage with the attack of the city crystal. But what he didn't expect was that he would continue to deal so much damage. Nothing happened to the other party. Albert was stunned. He saw that the silver-white figure was glowing with a golden light, and his eyes were wavering. It was a golden body. When did this guy change his equipment? Albert was speechless. Without any skills, he was thrown into the air. That person's movements dazzled him. He wasn't able to react at all. Albert's hands were numb. He watched helplessly as that person tortured him to death in the spring. Was this guy a monster? His hand speed and movements made Albert feel as though he was being strangled. Qin Mo just stood there as though he was saying, If I can fight as I want, you don't have to fight anymore. Albert's face turned ashen. But deep down it was still there. After the city was destroyed, his face burned. Under his friend's disbelieving gaze, he said in a low voice, I lost. I will try my best for the venue. With that, he wanted to leave with his people. Bojiu turned. Her evil smile didn't diminish. Sirs, please give me the bet first. They didn't have so much cash on them. The person flipped the laptop in his hands. His lips were still curved. You can transfer money online. Everyone. Why did he even think of this? William, where exactly did you get to know these two Asians? As for why William called the elegant man the Great Devil, they had basically seen it for themselves. He looked nonchalant, but when he fought, it sent chills down their spines. He was willing to lose the bet, but the amount was a little big. Albert still wanted to say something. But before he could speak, Someone laughed beside his ear. I heard that you're very interested in the button I gave to my fiancé. People usually attract trouble when they're interested in something that doesn't belong to them. Albert, your uncle is much better than you. Otherwise, your grandfather wouldn't have hesitated to give his inheritance to someone else. Albert froze when he heard that. He looked at the androgynous face in front of him, as if it had been kissed by God. He felt that although this person had bright eyes and white teeth when she smiled, there was a dark feeling about her, like the vampire aristocrats in the movies who could see through all your secrets. Who are you? How could you? You know about the internal affairs of their family? Bojo brushed past him. There's nothing I don't know here. Bullying my little princess Mo, you really deserve a beating. William was aware that Bojo was her husband's bodyguard. He could tell from the side that Abbott had chosen to provoke the devil. He had provoked that person once when he was young. He was beaten up by Gio to the point where he started to doubt his life. It was better not to mention that experience. After all, Bojo was pure and flawless in front of Chin Mo. For example, she was still smiling faintly, as though she wasn't the one who had said those harsh words. Brother Mo, look, there are more betrothal gifts. Chapter 1634. 11:30 p.m. Jiang City International Airport. Ever since Lin Feng and Yin Hu retired, the members of the Supreme Alliance had never been so united. This time everyone was here. Even Yin Wuyao, who went out to relax, was dressed in a suit. These people were used to wearing their uniforms. After changing into suits, they always wanted to pull their collars. The youngest among them was Mo Bei. She was carrying a school bag and wearing a cap. Her small face was expressionless. No matter how Coco teased her, her emotions didn't change. Coco was helpless. Little Bei doesn't have any reaction. Who said she didn't have any reaction? Feng Yi was the leader. He smiled. Haven't we been studying how to send the flowers? Coco didn't listen and went to tease her again. At this moment, Mo Bei looked down. Because she was short, she looked really small. But her aura had gradually grown. Don't disturb me, I'm looking at the process. Coco laughed and turned to pull Feng Shang. Look, Little Bei is angry, she is angry. Feng Shang didn't want to know this guy. The Supreme Alliance seemed to be the same as before. When they were together, there was never an awkward silence. Even if Lin Feng was dressed like a dog now, he would still be together with them. There were times when Feng Yi looked at these people and would often think, could they play another match? Just one match would be enough. Later on he didn't think so. It was because Lin Feng and Yin Hu had retired. He thought of many ways in which he would send them away one day. The only thing he didn't think of was because of some people's questioning. It was good now. It was all for the team to digest. In the future, they would be able to meet often. Young Master Qin probably meant to hide it completely. Indeed, it was good to live a life without being disturbed in the future. Marriage. Such a thing. Feng Yi had never thought about it. They were all destined to be alone. But fortunately, the Supreme Alliance still had Little Guy. Feng Yi liked to call Mo Bei Little Guy. It was like this throughout the journey. There wasn't a moment of boredom. Until after they alighted from the plane. Lin Feng asked him, what does a groom usually do? The top manager, Fox Feng, paused. I'm not married, thank you. Coco didn't stand on ceremony. Yin Hu should be the one thinking about this. You don't have to think about it. F***CK, what do you mean? Lin Feng pulled off his tie, looking very handsome. You want to fight one-on-one? Afraid of you? Come on. Feng Yi separated the two of them. Mind your image, this is overseas. Master sent me the address. Mo Bei said, it seems to be this location. He asked us to go there directly. Lin Feng glanced over. Who found this place? That doesn't seem like the captain's style. Wasn't Little Spade the one who proposed? Little Spade must be the one who asked for it. Coco's lips curved upwards. Didn't Captain say that he's marrying into the family? Lin Feng. The only person who can make eating rice sound so fresh and refined is the captain. Let's go. Yin Hu just wanted this person to belong to him legally as soon as possible. 5th Avenue. private villa area further up the mountain, there was a very small church. Although the church was small, it was beautifully decorated. There were even some vines wrapped around the walls, decorated with white roses. It was filled with black and red roses. Some people said that this was the private church of the nobles in the past. Some people said that the vampire count used to live here. Now the surroundings were as beautiful as a painting. Chapter 1635. But the groom Chinemo raised his eyebrows and said slowly, "Are you sure I want to dress like this?" Hoshino smiled faintly, as gentle as jade, but he seemed to be watching a good show. Gio's idea. Why? You don't like to cosplay as a character in the game? Chinemo didn't bother about this sentence. Instead, he looked past him and landed his gaze on Yusishin. His voice was calm. Did you bring your family? Hoshino paused for a moment. Chinemo stood up and looked down at his white shirt. A character in the game? Should he be glad that he didn't hang a gourd on his neck? Yusishin swirled his wine glass. It's good enough that you didn't dress as a girl. Young Master Chin, you should think about it. You are marrying Z. Remember to look after her in the future. If there are any problems, you can solve it internally. Chinemo glanced sideways and tidied his sleeves. His nobility didn't change at all. You don't feel safe. It seems like there isn't any progress. Before reminding me, find the reason why you are still single. Yusishin narrowed his eyes and didn't say anything. So what if he was married? That promise. Yusishin shifted his gaze back to Hoshino. His eyes became deeper and deeper. As one of the groomsmen, William was in charge of receiving them. He was controlling the scene outside. Behind him was a crazy Russian man who had been chasing him recently. That's right, it was a man. William was going crazy. Was he blind? He was so straight. He even gave him flowers. What the hell? After William chased him away, he hugged a blonde beauty and said melancholically, "The person I like since young is getting married and I have to be the groomsman." The blonde beauty took it as a joke. Just then, a person with long black hair walked over. Looking at her back view, it was truly magnificent. Especially her height, which William liked. An Asian beauty. William's eyes lit up. He flipped his blonde hair and leaned over, thinking that he was handsome. This is beautiful. He didn't finish the word person. The person in front of him glanced down. There was a sharpness in his eyes. The coldness caused William's back to stiffen. Was this a guy? Why was there such a good-looking guy? Yusishin laughed, full of bloodlust. Try saying the last word. Let's see if I will cripple you. William. Wait a minute, the people here are all Gio's friends, right? Gio, where did you get to know so many dangerous people? His gaze could really kill someone. Yusishin watched as William trembled. He scoffed and walked into the auditorium. The person who walked out from inside had a black veil draped over her head. She seemed to remind him, "Exciant, this is Fifth Avenue. What's the meaning of speaking so harshly to my childhood friend?" Yusishin glanced up. Did you receive the gift? Information system. The person standing in the light smiled. Such a grand gesture. Something feels off. Yusishin raised his eyebrows. What can be wrong? For example, you want to ask me for her. Bojio walked out, her black veil swaying in the wind, gliding past the side of her face. She stood in front of the pure white church, reminding people of Lilith who lived in hell. She was like a bloodlust, a witch, a devilish beauty. Chapter 1636. Bojio smiled. I have to wait until someone can take him away. Based on Hoshino's intentions, I don't want your information system. He can leave or come back anytime he wants. But honestly, my Hoshino isn't someone who can let anyone do whatever they want. Or does our young master Yusishin want to be the one who is pampered? Yusishin choked for a moment. His handsome face darkened, and a dark aura surged in his eyes. Bojio took a step forward. Her aura was still there. The black veil made her beautiful beyond compare. You really seem to be pampered. Yusishin gritted his teeth, but didn't say anything. Be your best man. Maybe I'll let Hoshino go if I'm happy. Of course, Bojio said this intentionally. In fact, Even if Yusishin didn't mention it, Bojio had already planned to tell Hoshino about the agreement today. Outside the church, William watched a group of people walk over. Albert was standing beside him. Ever since Chin Mo won the last time, Albert basically provided everything related to the church. After all, he couldn't understand that guy's background. Now there were so many people here. The two foreigners were confused. This church isn't bad. Coco commented. When we get married, we can hold our wedding here. Rao Rong added. That's a little difficult. Forget about people who don't even have a girlfriend. Coco. You make it sound like you have one. Come, take a tourist photo for me, Lin Feng said. Mo Bei carried her school bag. Her small figure stood there helplessly. Why did people who came to get married still have the mood to take tourist photos? William, who was standing there, felt even more helpless. After all, these people were dressed like normal people. They should be guests who came to attend the wedding. But tourist photos? What was going on? Were they bullying him because he didn't understand Chinese? William was hesitating if he should go forward to greet them. Feng Yi walked over, exuding the aura of a businessman. Excuse me, are you Mr. William? We are here to attend the wedding. William nodded. I am. It wasn't easy to find a normal person. He had to cherish it. What about them? Feng Yi asked again. He saw that Mo Bei, who was standing next to him, had already raised her head. Her eyes landed on a spot. It was Bojio, dressed in a black veil, and holding a dark red rose in her hands. She looked like she was in a manga. The moment she walked out, a black warbler flew up behind her, and large clumps of black feathers fell. On top of her silver hair, there was a black diamond crown, evil and luxurious. At that moment, only then did people realize that this person was really going to get married. It was just that the wedding dress was different, and the accessories were also different. It was as if it had come to the demon world and met its beautiful master. Master! Mo Bei walked over. Her small figure had no emotions on her face. She reached out and helped Bojio to lift the gauze. She was carrying a school bag on her back. Bojio smiled. She reached out and caressed Mo Bei's head. You're here? Mo Bei grunted and stood there obediently. This was the scene Chin Mo saw when he came out. He narrowed his deep eyes and heard a sudden F***ck. From the other side. Chapter 1637. Lin Feng was really stunned. His eyes didn't even move away from her. The others turned towards Chin Mo as well. Dressed in a snow-white robe, he stood upright, his wide sleeves fluttering in the wind. He exuded a strong sense of asceticism and a scholarly aura, making him look like a prince from ancient times. Many good-looking people weren't suited to wear this white robe, but Chin Mo seemed to have the aura of a prince. Even though it was a swordsman's robe, it made him look cold. Since he was cosplaying a game character, his hairstyle had been adjusted. His black hair was slightly curled and fell on top of his eyes, giving him an inexplicable air of a ruffian. Even though Panda was a support player, his favorite character was the assassin. His eyes lit up. It's so similar, Captain. This is the closest cosplay I've ever seen. He looks so handsome even without the wig. If it was posted on the public account, many people would go crazy. Why did Captain think of cosplaying his own character? That wasn't right. It wasn't his idea. It was Little Spade's. It was a great idea. Captain was still frowning slightly. It was obvious how much he was against it. Don't take it, Chin Mo said casually. Ebert didn't understand why. Honestly, when he had first seen him walk out, he had thought he was looking at a character from the game. Asians were really magical. They could change their aura just by changing their clothes. Bojio's eyes curved. She had been wearing a black veil, but now, she looked more like a witch waiting for the youngster in white to fall into her trap. Even the mole at the corner of her eyes seemed to be glistening. Her lips curved upwards, looking beautiful and devilish. Chin Mo's gaze landed on her, and there was a deep look in her eyes. Happy. He walked over, his voice faint. Bojio's smile deepened. Brother Mo, this suit suits you really well. It made her want to pounce on him. Chin Mo arched a brow, not saying a word. He freed one hand and pinched her face, hinting for her to stop causing trouble. Brother Mo, let's go. Beauty Lin is too eager to get married. We can't waste time like this. Lin Feng, you're the one I hate marrying, right? F***CK. Did I come here to be shot? Let's go. Yin Hu walked over and held his hand. His side profile was handsome, and he gradually exuded a manly aura. They were both dressed in suits, but there were two of them, one in black and one in white. Let's go into the church. Inexplicably, Lin Feng's heartbeat quickened by half a beat. His face was full of aggression, but in reality, even his ears were red. Let's go. A Lamborghini was parked outside the church. It was just that the distance was a little far. No one noticed the commotion here. Only Little Black knew that someone was approaching it. As a wedding car, it had to have some reaction. However, he didn't expect that the voice that slowly sounded out would make the car stop. I'm not sure what kind of password our Lord Jia would change, but it's definitely something like a confession. Chapter 1638. Little Blackie's automatic recognition function was about to go haywire. How was that possible? How could that be its owner? There could only be one owner. But the system told it that this person was also its owner? The electronic network wasn't stable. Was it or wasn't it? Because of the man in the priest's robe, the navigation screen in the Lamborghini started to jump. In the church, everything that needed to be prepared had been prepared. The door was opened and light shone in. Crimson roses were scattered all over the floor. Little Mo Bei changed her clothes and didn't carry her little school bag anymore. She wore a white tang suit and held a bouquet of flowers in her hands. She followed behind Bojio. She was very small, but because of her cold aura, she looked very cute. As for Bojio, when the black veil on her rose, the back of the veil dragged on the ground. It meandered but didn't seem heavy at all. Perhaps only someone like Bojio could wear a black British veil dress with such an effect. It was beautiful and full of charm. The tear mole at the corner of her eyes added to the evilness. Regardless of whether it was the Supreme Alliance or William and the others, they all sat on the long bench as the family members. They didn't inform their family about this wedding and the planning of everything. Chin Mo handed it over to Grandfather Butler. Grandfather Butler was still wearing a tuxedo. But today there was an additional tray on his white gloves. There were 2 rings on the tray, both inlaid with black diamonds. And at the top of the church, the priest was already standing. He was holding the Bible in his hands. But he gave off a lazy and elegant aura. Of course, at this moment, no one would notice the priest. As for this priest, he was also found by Albert. To him, it couldn't be any more ordinary. It was also far away. He didn't stand at the side. When the priest started to read the oath, many white pigeons flew up. Chin Mo looked at Bojio. His eyes were deep, like the vast ocean and the mountains of Kunlun. Under the layers of light, it was because of the long silence that finally started to boil. I do. The black veil matched with the white clothes from ancient times. The beauty created by the collision was even more layered. That was the most unique wedding that many people had ever seen. It was very romantic. Black feathers kept falling from the top of the church. They hit both of their faces. Everything seemed like something that could only be seen in a comic. Moreover, Lin Feng and Yin Hu were standing beside them. You're mine from now on. This is what Lin Feng said. MH, Yin Hu replied. He glanced at a certain someone's red ears and smiled. It was not easy for them to finally be together. From thinking that they would never meet again, to finally recognizing each other. It seems that no relationship is easy. But it was precisely because of this that after experiencing separation, people would know how to cherish each other. Tears welled up in Shui Yaoyao's eyes. The others were the same. When their gazes landed, everything was clear. Unexpectedly, when Bojio tossed the flowers, she walked over to Hoshino and placed the flowers in his arms. Her voice was so faint that only the 2 of them could hear her. Hoshino, the promise is off. From now on, you have to live for yourself. Hoshino was shocked. Everyone knew what the bouquet of flowers at the wedding symbolized. She hoped that the person who received the bouquet would be as happy as she was. But when Bojio straightened her body, she added evilly, Find a girlfriend soon. Yusishi narrowed his eyes. Chapter 1639. When Hoshino heard that, he glanced down at the bouquet in his hand. He was the only one present who wasn't wearing a suit, and was only wearing a white shirt. The corners of his lips seemed to curl up, and there was a faint glow in his gentle jade-like eyes. I've always been very free. Basically, he was saying that the agreement was voluntary. Because it's Yuzi. So everything was voluntary. Is there such a feeling? You are not family, but you have been together since you were young. When he saw that she was lonely, he wanted to protect her. Hoshino would probably never forget the scene of that little young lord reaching out to him while he was covered in blood. At that time it was still raining, but because he was holding a hand, it seemed like the whole world wasn't so cold. Seeing her happy, he felt happy in his heart. She was missing. He wanted to find her frantically. Now she was like a witch, but there was light behind her. They were suitable to be relatives, not lovers. Chinemo was the kind of person who could make her eyes light up, make her feel that there was hope, and make her believe in certain things. And he was most suited to do this, to withdraw at the right time. Hoshino freed one hand and leaned forward, hugging Bojio lightly. Okay. The word good made Yusishin's expression turn even uglier. He looked directly at Chinemo. As the groom, how could he not react when his bride was being hugged by someone else? Chinemo glanced at him faintly. His expression was just like the character he played in the game, indifferent and with the aura of a wine immortal. It was as if he was saying, I'm already married, so you should be the one worrying. Yusishin narrowed his eyes again. Because of Hoshino's actions, no one noticed the mischievous smile on the priest's face when he held onto the Bible. He didn't look like a priest at all. Instead, when they took a closer look at his eyes, they looked similar to Bojio's. Only when William paid the bill did he realize that the priest was gone. On the other hand, there was an extra coat and a wig. What was going on? Before William could react, a priest ran over hurriedly. He was a typical blonde foreigner. When he saw William, he said, "Oh no! God will never forgive a person like you for stealing my Bible and my robe. Are you here to ruin the wedding?" William was speechless. Was there some kind of misunderstanding? He was the one who organized the wedding. Besides, the priest robe in his hand was not what he was wearing. Wait a minute. In other words, the priest just now was a fake? He couldn't tell. William admitted that he was a little confused. The golden-haired priest was still tugging at him. I must drag you to Jesus, my God, and make you repent. How dare you hit a priest's head? William wanted to say that he really wasn't the one who hit him, but a wave of believers surged out. At this time, a slender figure appeared next to the Lamborghini, but this time he changed into his own appearance. The AI system quickly identified Xiaohei, and it was no longer confused. It recognized the person in front of it, but it was erased by that person. Now is not the time. However, that kid from the Qin clan is indeed not bad. This time, our Lord Jiu can be considered to have gotten what he wanted. After all, he has wanted to raise him since he was young. Xiaohei was still resisting, obviously not wanting its data to be erased. Chapter 1640. At the church, William, who was the scapegoat, was being chased around the church. F***CK. Was it wrong for him to wear a wig? That was why he shouldn't have attended the wedding of the devil Qin Mo. If it wasn't for Jiu, he wouldn't have come. What the hell is going on? William was almost out of breath from running. In the end, no one knew who the fake priest was, because the wedding wasn't affected. On the other hand, those roses and black feathers were also brought by the imposter. When Grandfather Butler found out about this, he had been puzzled. Why wasn't there any data on Little Blackie? Logically speaking, the fake priest would have passed by Little Blackie. Or was Little Blackie not activated? Impossible. But Little Blackie didn't have any reaction. Young Lord was the only one who could make it behave like this. Unless, at the thought of this, Grandpa Butler's usually elegant face changed. Master. Was Master back? Was that possible? The gentlemanly butler didn't tell Bojio. If he told young Lord when he wasn't sure, she would be stuck in the past. This matter had to be investigated. After the wedding, everyone went to the hotel. Only Chinemo and Bojio stayed in the church. I have something to show you. Chinemo, who was dressed in an ancient white robe, couldn't resist him. After all, she liked to look at faces. They were both wearing the same diamond ring. Bojio was still wearing the black veil. Logically speaking, it wasn't convenient for her to move. But to Bojio, it wasn't a problem. After all, she was famous for climbing walls. Walking in the black veil was still very handsome. But Chinemo didn't let her go. Of course, he had to lead his wife. Hence, Bojio was like a little kid, obediently being led by him. Occasionally, when she lifted her brows, the devilish aura of a demoness could be seen. When it came to this point, she was still a little unconvinced. When they were young, she had pounced on the Almighty like it was a game. Now it was a little difficult. The Almighty was too reserved. That wasn't good. But after marriage, she should be able to do whatever she wanted. Chinemo arched a brow, glancing over. What naughty thoughts are you having again? Bojio smiled mischievously. Brother Emo, we're already married. You can't simply suspect me. From now on, my priority is to get pregnant, not to do bad things. After she was done here today, she would seriously pay a visit to the Black brothers. He wanted to see if there was anything good he could use on the Almighty. Hearing this, Chinemo frowned. Sometimes, this guy couldn't be too cooperative. He already regretted bringing up the subject of children. How could he forget that when this guy saw a child he wouldn't have eyes for anyone else? The sky gradually darkened. Nightingale soared, but many black feathers still fell down. This was a scene that could only be seen in the Devil realm. Even the vegetation beneath their feet was the color of smoke. Blue flowers floated on the water. Everything was too beautiful to be real. He brought her to the cliff behind the church. On the surface, there was nothing special about it. Wait for the sky to turn dark. Just like that, Chinemo hugged Bojio and leaned against the tree. His voice was calm, his aura of abstinence making people want to flirt with him. It was a pity that Bojio's thoughts were seen through. Now both her hands were pressed into the Almighty's embrace, unable to move at all. Chapter 1641. Wasn't that perfect? Bojio thought. She was about to stand up. Her wrist was pressed down again. Aren't you going to look at the thing I prepared for you? Chinemo asked casually. What is it? Was it a game? She had played Super Mario before. But she realized that cultured people's confessions were different from others. The only thing she could learn from porn was how to give flowers and cars. The Almighty's was better. But as an overbearing CEO, she didn't have to think too much. One of them was in charge of romance while the other was in charge of throwing money. It was quite suitable. Anyway, he liked whatever she gave him. Chinemo didn't answer her question, just asking her to wait. The night deepened a little. The entire church was like a palace that had been ignited, flowing with the golden light of the lights. Some people said that the Western hell wasn't like what people imagined. A sea of blood everywhere. In the West, Lucifer was the ruler of hell. Under the holy city of Jerusalem, the beautiful archangel had built the most beautiful palace in hell after she fell. It was like a church in the human world. But there wasn't any holy light. The scene was like a description of the Western hell. The wind was gentle. No sound could be heard except for the occasional black feather or flower petals falling. The surface of the lake was like the legendary other shore, very quiet. The moonlight was cold. A plate full of stars, outlining the entire Milky Way. Bojio stood up, her eyes glowing. Was it this? The Almighty had asked her to wait. Bojio tilted her head, wanting to ask. He leaned over and lit something. It was a Kongming lantern. Emo and Jio were written on it. When a Kongming lantern rose, it was like a command. Hundreds of thousands of Kongming lanterns rose with the wind, filling the entire night sky. It wasn't lit with an open flame. It was more like the wind generated by electricity. He used the most ancient Chinese language to confess. That was probably what Chinemo wanted to do. He stood there tall, his clothes fluttering. When the wind blew, the corners of his robe fluttered. He held a Kongming lantern in his hand, like an ancient prince dressed in white. The thousands of lights in the church behind him seemed to be unable to resist his deep eyes. All the starlight fell into his eyes. It was a scene that seemed to only appear in comics, but now it was reflected in everyone's eyes. This place didn't look like China. On the business street of Fifth Avenue, people were surprised when they saw the lights in the distance. "What's that? So beautiful." Someone explained to his friend. "That's a Kongming lantern, something from the east. There are so many of them. Why would they appear there? Should we go and take a look? It's too beautiful. Someone must be making a wish." A large number of Kongming lanterns occupied the entire sky above the church. Almost everyone could see Emojio's name floating above. Those who didn't understand Chinese characters would think that it was some special symbol. Chapter 1642. Hoshino didn't say anything. He looked at the sky lanterns that were slowly rising outside the car window. His gaze was deep. Yusishin smirked. "Don't tell me you still can't let her go? She's already married." Hoshino glanced over. "If we stop, the police car behind us will be coming." "Why would I be afraid of a police car?" With Yusishin's status, he didn't have to be afraid. Hoshino's voice was as smooth as jade. "I'm saying that we should go. You have something on your side." Yusishin paused before turning the steering wheel. The corners of his lips that were hidden in the darkness lifted slightly. If it was the wedding night. Tonight was the real wedding night. In the greenhouse near the church, in the bathtub, the black muslin fluttered layer by layer with the water waves, wrapping around Chin Mo's white shirt. The starry sky was reflected above his head. Everything was beautiful. His breath rose along with the temperature in the room. Her phone was ringing on the ground. She didn't bother. Bojio only said one sentence. "Clothes." He kissed her neck. His breath came over. It was hot and heavy. "I'll help you wear it later." The numbness spread from his fingers to her entire body. When the black muslin faded, the feeling from her tailbone became even stronger. Bojio could feel the heat from his body. It was so hot that it seemed to be able to burn all her rationality. He pressed her wrist against the edge of the bathtub. The black muslin was messily piled around her waist. Because of her actions, the bathtub was full. She could see the distinct black and white shirt. It covered Bojio's body. Her jade-like skin was imprinted. Even the corners of her eyes were red. Every part of her body was covered with jade-like water droplets. It made him want to destroy her even more. When a demoness moved, she would always be extremely beautiful. She was alluring everywhere, but she didn't know it. It was a pity that there weren't many people who could get a demoness. That was because most men liked pure white people. Moreover, a demoness would never be manipulated by anyone. She wouldn't show such an expression easily, unless that person was specific. For example, Bojio and Chin Mo. When she saw Chin Mo, her heart would itch. It wouldn't disappear no matter what. Because in her eyes, when he did such things, very few people can be like him. When his ascetic aura was broken, a fatal sexiness flowed out from his handsome face. He was like a white-robed deity who had fallen into the demon world. His entire body was cold and noble, but his eyes were tainted with something else because of her. How could he not be tempted? Bojio chuckled and pulled them closer. However, he didn't stop at all. This was the only time he didn't listen to her pleas. Enough. Enough. Bojio's breathing was unstable. The water flowed even faster, and the sound of water hitting the floor was extremely clear, echoing in the bathroom. Bojio's eyes started to slacken from the joy. Droplets of water flowed down his black hair and landed on her collarbone, burning her mind into a blank. Chapter 1643. It was still early. He had plenty of time to let her experience the restraint he had towards her for a long time. Fifth Avenue. A famous entertainment venue. There were all kinds of people coming and going. Mo Bay was still young and wasn't allowed to enter in the country. But overseas, it wasn't that strict. Even if Mo Bay didn't want to enter, Coco, the rich second-generation young master, insisted on bringing her there to broaden her horizons. Take a look when you're young. When you grow up, don't be curious about this place. It's just a drink, there's nothing special about it. Coco said as he drank a mouthful of beer. Then he said to the other side, hurry and call little Spade over, it's a bachelor party. How can a bachelor party be held on the day of a wedding? Do you understand? Lin Feng bit open a bottle of beer. Since he was so happy, it didn't matter if he drank more. Feng Yi hung up the phone dressed in a suit. No one picked up. Stop calling, you guys drink first. Get a fruit plate for little Mo Bei. Didn't you say you were thirsty? Lin Feng had just finished speaking when Coco shouted. sh*t. What sh*t? Lin Feng still hadn't realized the severity of the problem. Coco looked towards little Mo Bei, who was sitting on the sofa and drinking an entire glass of barbecue. He grabbed his hair. I forgot, there's alcohol in it too. Could it be that little Spade kissed her disciple and wants to settle the score with me tomorrow? Lin Feng frowned. What do you mean? Coco looked at little Mo Bei in disappointment. The rest of the people also looked over. The glass in little Mo Bei's hand was already empty. Her eyes were dark and penetrating. But the people from Supreme Alliance almost all knew that they couldn't let this child drink. She should be fine, she only drank one glass. You said the same thing the last time. Feng Yi raised his hand and rubbed his brows. Before he could speak, little Mo Bei stood up with an expressionless face. My favorite thing to do is to play games. That's it. She was drunk. Someone who could get drunk in 3 mouthfuls was really. The person I like the most is Spadesy. Little Mo Bei said and hugged Lin Feng. Her face was still calm. Lin Feng froze as he watched her carry the next one. Wait a minute, little Mo Bei, wait a minute. Lin Feng said and turned to Coco. Hurry up and stop her. Coco replied. It's not appropriate for me to stop you. I'm straight. F***ck me too. Yin Hu's gaze drifted over, and he swallowed the word. F***ck. What should I do? Coco replied. Wait for Yao Yao. She went out to answer the phone. When little Mo Bei was drunk, she liked to hug people. She was really talented. After all, none of the drunkards looked like they weren't drunk. Moreover, he had a cold expression on his face. Then she said, Master is married and will have a baby soon. I want to learn how to cook and take care of the baby. Lin Feng. Then why are you hugging me? Senior Lin. Little Mo Bei looked up. Lin Feng thought to himself, you've finally woken up a little. In the next second, this thought was shattered. Because it's impossible for you to counterattack. After little Mo Bei finished speaking, she added, this is a problem of temperament. Lin Feng's handsome face didn't know what expression to make. Coco was laughing so hard that he covered his stomach. Chapter 1644. No one is allowed to give her alcohol in the future. Lin Feng gritted his teeth. Little Mo Bei was expressionless. Senior Lin, are you angry out of humiliation? Lin Feng only wanted to say, who can take this little poker face away? Hurry up and take him away. Such a scene was very funny, because it's hard to get together. So when Yao Yao finished the phone call and sat back, she didn't have the intention to take Mo Bei away. She knew it very well. In the future, there would be fewer and fewer times like this. We have to learn to face separation. This was probably a form of growth. Another phone call came in. Shui Yao Yao hung up. The person who called her was a girl who liked Jiang's recently. He probably really treated her as Jiang's sister, and kept asking her what Jiang's liked. She rarely went back to the Jiang family anymore. He hadn't contacted anyone recently. It was not because of anything else. But on the team's side, some things had already been taken care of. Almost everyone knew that ever since God Lin and Uncle Lin had retired, they had become extremely competitive. The captain didn't think of continuing. The Asian Cup was also over. It seemed like the wish he had made that year had been fulfilled. Logically speaking, he should be happy. However, he still felt that it was a pity. Why did he leave in such a way? She could no longer find any news about Goddess Luo. He would probably live a good life with Almighty Shao. But Shui Yao Yao was someone who had started playing professionally later. In her memory, She could never forget that long-haired figure who stood as the #1 wizard in the entire server. Many girls wanted to be her. Yet he had to watch her retire in such a manner. Shui Yaoyao raised her hand and drank a glass of wine to suppress her emotions. He looked at the expressionless Mo Bei who was hugging the cola. Mo Bei got up, reached out, hugged her and said seriously, "Sister Yaoyao, I'm drunk." Lin Feng finally found a chance to complain. "You still know that you're drunk?" Mo Bei glanced at him. "Beauty Lin. Team Flower Lin, this form of address." Lin Feng froze again. "If I don't settle the score with your master tomorrow, my surname isn't Lin." Mo Bei ignored him and started talking to herself again. "Master told me to train well and win the championship in the future. That way, people will always remember Supreme Alliance." Shui Yaoyao's fingers paused, then she smiled. That's right. How could she forget? There was also little Mo Bei. Honestly speaking, the esports industry relied on talent. Some people were not suited to play professionally. And little Mo Bei really lived up to the word genius. But compared to a genius, what was reassuring was that at such a young age, he already knew how to take responsibility and persevere. He never slacked off in his training and studies because he was stronger than others. No wonder every time Highness Jiu saw someone he would say, "Our Bei is especially fierce when it comes to hitting people. But she gets shy easily and can't take teasing." A while ago, Zhao Sampeng had exploded in the chat group because of this matter. "Little Spade, it's fine if you flaunt your love in the past, but now you're telling everyone you meet that you don't have a disciple but I do. Aren't you embarrassed?" But Highness Jiu only asked, "Envy? The most handsome fatty in the world. I will go and accept a disciple tomorrow." "Just accept him, he isn't as good as my disciple," Spadesy said. "Most importantly, my disciple's cooking is amazing." On the same day, Zhao Sampeng posted on his WeChat Moments that he was looking for a disciple. There was only one condition. Anyone who graduated from a chef technical school will do. At that time, someone commented that Grandpa Fatty was going to change his career and open a restaurant. Now Zhao Sampeng had indeed opened a restaurant. It seemed to be very far away from the industry. Sometimes Shui Yaoyao would want to see them compete again. Chapter 1645. The next day, Mo Bei, who was pressing her head, had forgotten what she had said. Her little abstinence was basically telling herself that she wouldn't drink again unless her master was around. However, Lin Feng took this matter seriously. He pondered that he had to counterattack once. What did he mean by he couldn't counterattack? Because of his temperament. He was giving in to Yin Hu, okay? This time, he definitely wouldn't be so gentle. Lin Feng watched Yin Hu walk out of the bathroom. Without a word, he extinguished his cigarette and pressed him against the wall. There was a hint of alcohol in his breath. Probably because he didn't drink much, it wasn't unpleasant. There was even the fragrance of alcohol. Everyone knew that Lin Feng was good-looking. His handsome face turned over. When he got closer, the collar of his shirt was already crooked. He was so handsome that he looked like a rascal. "Do you want to go to the bed yourself or do I have to use a stronger method?" Yin Hu only needed one glance to know what he was thinking. His black hair was still dripping water. He reached out and took the towel away. His expression didn't change. "I'll go myself." "So cooperative?" Lin Feng frowned and sized him up. "Don't tell me you want to do something when you kiss me senseless." Yin Hu laughed at his words. "MH. You admit that you feel good when I kiss you. Brother, that isn't the point." Lin Feng scoffed. Yin Hu gestured for him to look at his finger. Lin Feng glanced over and saw the ring he had worn yesterday. It was black and engraved with his name. Yin Hu's black hair was still dripping water. He lowered his eyes and looked at him. "We aren't brothers for a long time. Are you calling me hubby or am I calling you hubby?" Lin Feng choked on his words. He turned his head and said, "This title is awkward." Yin Hu thought for a moment and said, "It is quite awkward." Lin Feng suggested, "I'll call you Madam Lin from now on." Yin Hu looked up and seemed to smile. "Taking advantage of me verbally? How is this verbally taking advantage of me? In terms of months, I'm older than you, right?" Lin Feng felt that his hair was an eyesore, and threw the towel back. Yin Hu took it, a smile on his face. You're just older than me in terms of months, the rest, huh? At first, Lin Feng didn't understand what it meant. After thinking for a while, he pushed her to the edge of the bed. White shirt and black trousers. When he was wearing it, it was indeed very fragrant. Yin Hu looked at him. The man bent down and smiled in his ear. You'll know in a moment whether it's big or not. Yin Hu didn't move, watching as Lin Feng pried open his belt. With Lin Feng's skills, as long as he was willing, Yin Hu wouldn't be able to gain any advantage. After all, in terms of strength, he really couldn't compare with this person. Yin Hu felt a kiss landing beside his ear. His gaze deepened and his voice became hoarse. Are you having second thoughts because of what you heard last night? I've always had this thought. Lin Feng looked down at him from top to bottom. After all, you're young Master Yin. Yin Hu smiled slowly. It seems like I've finally made you feel a sense of conquest. His smile made Lin Feng's ears heat up. Don't talk. All right. Yin Hu reached out, wanting to pull him closer. Lin Feng narrowed his eyes. Don't move either. Yin Hu's voice was still hoarse. Can't I cooperate with you? Chapter 1646. Yin Hu sucked in a deep breath. He was kissed. His gaze deepened along with the person's actions. After all, it was more tempting when it came to him. But the moment he thought about how this guy had attracted many men and women because of his face, his heart tightened. Girls were probably something he would care about for the rest of his life. Lin Feng glanced down, his breathing a little messy. What are you thinking about? How do I want to lock you down? Yin Hu's gaze was deep and beautiful. Do you really want it? Lin Feng pressed his forehead. Of course, I've already done it. What do you think? Yin Hu felt the warmth coming from his body. His black hair fell. Can't you be pampered by me? Don't you hate being tired? I'm happy to be tired. Lin Feng laughed lightly. Don't play psychological games with me. Anyway, this time I want to be the leader. Yin Hu tilted his head and looked at the face he had liked for so many years. Sure. This time Lin Feng was the one who paused. What tricks are you playing? I'm not playing tricks. Yin Hu's gaze was deep. I'm worried that after you try, you will still think that girls are better. When Lin Feng heard this, he blurted out. I only have you from the start. Who else can I compare with? The moment he said this, he regretted it. Didn't this prove that he didn't have any experience, and that he had learned everything from him? Yin Hu laughed. That's true. F*ck, I realized that you must be doing it on purpose to spoil my mood. Lin Feng moved closer to his face. It's not that easy. Yin Hu didn't dodge. I won't spoil it, I just saw that you did too much foreplay. I'm not afraid of your pain. Lin Feng snorted. Besides, I have to make you feel it. Yin Hu looked at him and lowered his voice. Then you don't have to do any foreplay. I can feel it just by looking at you. It was just a sentence. But Lin Feng didn't know why when his breath landed on his face. There was a numbing feeling that couldn't be shaken off. This guy, he shouldn't have let him speak. Lin Feng had learned his lesson. He lowered his gaze and ended the conversation with a kiss. When his fingers touched the smooth lines under his palm, even though he knew that it was a person with the same body structure as him, he couldn't bear to leave because of that unique feeling. He had to admit that Yin Hu's figure was really good. Any man would be envious. Lin Feng was no exception. He didn't even understand why he didn't have such a body when he was obviously stronger. The smooth texture made his whole body feel a little hot. It was just that he was constantly on guard against the other party's tricks. When Lin Feng leaned over, he was thinking of ways to avoid Yin Hu's hand. Because once that guy made a move, he didn't have to think about anything else. In the end, the one who would be attacked would definitely be him. A historic mistake. He wouldn't do it again. But today, the other party was really cooperating. It was as if they were completely under his control. Lin Feng had never seen Yin Hu like this. But to be honest, he really didn't look like someone who was lying under anyone. But Lin Feng didn't care so much. Now that he had the chance, he wanted it. But really there was no trick. But Yinhu's face started to turn pale. It should be painful. Just as he was about to let go. Chapter 1647. Needless to say, Yinhu was really domineering when he said that. This made Lin Feng feel like he was hallucinating. Who exactly was suppressing who? But with Yinhu's cooperation, Lin Feng improved. Lin Feng had also improved, and he felt great. Especially the voice beside his ear, and the face that was inches away. It was really easy to make people go crazy. But similarly, after going crazy, Lin Feng regretted it. Because he could sense that the other party didn't feel a trace of happiness. Even though he didn't feel good at that time, Yinhu really cared about his feelings, which was why he was defeated by the numbness. But now, he seemed to have hurt the other party. After it was over, Lin Feng saw Yinhu's pale face and panicked. He touched the trousers in his hand and put them on, wanting to make a call. Unexpectedly, his hand was held down by Yinhu. That person had a handsome face and his aura was still there. Honestly, if it wasn't for his pale face, he didn't look like he had been F***ed. However, even his lips turned pale. Are you planning to run away after trying it out? You don't think it's good enough? Lin Feng really didn't understand where this thought came from. He was anxious and said, I'm feeling great. Who's running away at the last minute? I just feel that my skills are too bad and want to ask if there's any way to make up for it. Ever since he roared out this sentence, the entire room was a little quiet. Yinhu probably didn't expect him to say this. His fingers paused. Lin Feng came back to his senses. F***ck, what did he say just now? His skills were too bad. Yinhu looked at his face, a smile flashing across his eyes. Who do you plan to ask about this? That's right, who? Was he going to tell the world that his skills were bad? Lin Feng thought about it and quickly hung up. Fortunately, it didn't go through. You don't have to ask me. Yinhu looked at him. Lin Feng was annoyed too. He squatted by the bed with his long legs and long arms, his handsome face. Is it very painful? Must I describe it? Yinhu glanced down. Lin Feng said in a low voice, it wasn't very painful before. Didn't you say that your skills are bad? Yinhu sighed. Indeed, it's a long story. Lin Feng felt really guilty. After all, he knew that someone like Yinhu wouldn't lie down for anyone. Do you need me to help you clean up? Forget it, it hurts to even move now. Yinhu held his forehead. Besides, do you know how to? Lin Feng said, it's not like I haven't studied it before. Yinhu chuckled. It mostly depends on talent. Normally, Lin Feng would be furious if he was teased like this. However, seeing that the man's face was pale, he was even more worried. Do you want to go to the hospital? How do I tell the doctor the cause of the illness? Her boyfriend slept with her? Yinhu's gaze deepened. Lin Feng felt even more guilty. I'll go get you a glass of water. Yinhu pressed him down again, his tone unhurried. Are you feeling guilty? Isn't that obvious? Lin Feng was starting to regret it. With Yinhu's physique, why did he have to listen to him? Yinhu glanced at the man's naked upper body, his gaze deepening. If you feel guilty, stay closer to me. MMH. Lin Feng didn't know what this meant. He moved closer. Yinhu continued, come up. Chapter 1648. Sore waist. Yinhu didn't have that feeling yet. He just felt that this person was as slow as usual in certain aspects. Come up first. The voice was faint. Lin Feng bent his waist, and he could still see the attractive curve of his waist. Perhaps it was because of his fair skin that made him want to hold it even more. Let me tell you, I'm quite good at helping. Lin Feng had just come up and hadn't finished his sentence. The pale-faced man who had been lying on the ground suddenly exerted strength in his hands and flipped him over, pressing him against the wall. His breath seemed to flow into the back of his ears. Didn't I say that if you want to practice your techniques, you can ask me directly? Lin Feng sensed what he was going to do and instinctively wanted to reach out. But looking at his pale face, he was afraid that if he used his strength, Yinhu would definitely be in trouble. That was the moment he panicked. Yinhu's kiss landed on the side of his neck. His breath was still hot. When his thin lips pressed against it, Lin Feng couldn't help but tremble. That kiss wasn't rushed, but it was forceful. Every part of his body seemed to be numb. It was as if he was electrified. Needless to say, how would it feel when his entire body was pressed against it? It wasn't easy for Lin Feng to press down on someone. Of course, he didn't want to be pressed back. While he wasn't bewitched, he said unsteadily, "Didn't we agree that today is the wedding day? Let me do it." "Didn't I come just now?" Yinhu didn't stop when he spoke, his eyes landing on his face. "Besides, don't you want me to stop the pain? This method is the most effective." Lin Feng thought to himself, "I don't believe you." The moment he opened his mouth, he was kissed back. It was the same kiss. Even he didn't know why. When Yinhu kissed him, it felt as if his entire nervous system was burning. There was a numb feeling everywhere. His body seemed to be ignited by fire. But Yinhu didn't let him move, the breath hitting his ear getting heavier. This suddenly made Lin Feng understand something. Actually, it didn't matter whether he pressed back or not because he knew clearly how affected this person would be because of him. That expression that didn't seem like his usual self was indescribably sexy. There was restraint and also impudence. But his face was still pale. This made Lin Feng forget about it. After all, it wasn't like he didn't enjoy it when he was down there. While thinking like this, Yinhu barged in. Only then did Lin Feng recover from the numbness. The burning sensation wasn't pleasant. "Does it hurt?" Yinhu lowered his voice. Before Lin Feng could finish, Yinhu opened his mouth again. "This is the moment. You can't stop because it will hurt more if you stop." Lin Feng's breathing was messed up. His black hair fell onto the pillow, and the back of his neck was covered in a thin layer of sweat. Yinhu's gaze deepened. He leaned forward and planted a kiss on the back of his shoulder. His voice was raspy. "At this time, we have to slowly let the other party get used to it. Then, we have to feel when he can truly accept me." Lin Feng could sense every movement he made, but he had never heard him talk about it. It would only make him more at this moment. He did not know what point he had hit. Lin Feng's eyes widened and he grabbed the bedsheets with his left hand. Chapter 1649. Lin Feng's entire body turned numb, his tailbone trembling. "Seems like it." Yinhu lowered his body. He had been controlling his strength, but at this moment, he didn't seem to care anymore. What else did Yinhu say next? Lin Feng couldn't take it anymore. His mind was so blank that he could only protest. Yinhu lowered his voice. "Isn't it great?" "Me too." An entire day of entanglement. The temperature kept rising. He could hear the sound of breathing and the flirtatious shaking of the bed. The European-style bed, especially the one in the hotel, wasn't that sturdy. When Lin Feng woke up, it was already 2 o'clock in the afternoon. He heard Yinhu talking on the phone. He sat by the bed, one hand buttoning his white shirt. They were both under pressure, but why was he so much more energetic? Was it just his imagination that his face was pale? Sensing that he was awake, Yinhu hung up and glanced over. "Are you hungry?" Lin Feng's stomach growled. "Order the hotel service first. I want to eat mutton." "Have some porridge first." Yinhu buttoned the last button and lowered his body, using his forehead to touch Lin Feng's. Lin Feng arched a brow. "What are you doing?" "I was too fierce. I'm afraid you might have an adverse reaction." Yinhu's voice was faint. Lin Feng paused. "Am I that weak? Better than me." Yinhu chuckled lightly. "I have a slight fever, but I took medicine." Lin Feng looked at his lips, which hadn't recovered. "It didn't seem serious when you were torturing me. You seem quite strong. Didn't I tell you not to move around?" Yinhu's voice was a little hoarse. "I wanted to hug you to sleep, but who knew you would stir up the fire?" Lin Feng didn't care since he had the mindset of a straight man. "How are you now? I'll get you some medicine." He was about to get up, his actions suave. Yinhu pressed him down. "It's fine, I'll be fine in a while. It's not that hot. Have some porridge with me and we'll meet Little Spade tonight." "Did you forget about the call?" Lin Feng suddenly thought of something and felt relieved. It was Little Spade's call? MMH. Yin, who sat there, his side profile giving off the vibe of an aristocratic young master. Lin Feng put on his trousers. His face was beautiful, but his movements were rough and he looked like a rascal. When he lowered his head to pull the zipper, he said, "I've thought about it. You should serve me in the future. I couldn't tell in the past with that body of yours, but now I know." When Yin Hu heard this, he glanced over, his lips curving into a smile. "I'll let you indulge yourself this once. You're thinking too much. If I want to do something to you, it won't be a matter of minutes." Lin Feng was wearing a pair of black trousers. He bent down and patted his face. He didn't use much strength, but it was manly. "I'm going easy on you." Yin Hu glanced up. His aura was still there, but he was smiling more than before. "I know Almighty Lin Feng is going easy on me. If not, why would I be able to suppress him?" Lin Feng retracted his hand. "I'll call room service." "There's no need for that." Yin Hu stood up. "It's the first day of marriage, we have to have a formal meal." Lin Feng looked at him, and then at himself. He was covered in marks and he had to choose clothes to wear. Was this guy born in the year of the dog? Getting off the bed and getting off the bed were really two different people. Chapter 1650. Yin Hu had always been someone else's child in his mother's eyes. If it was someone else, with his mother's personality, she would definitely give that person a hard time, and would not be able to get over it for a while. Now, in his mother's words, Yin Hu was the one who called home to tell them he was safe. When he drank too much, Yin Hu was the one who brought him home. When the washing machine broke, Yin Hu was the one who fixed it. His mother's meaning was clear. Yin Hu was her biological son. Seriously, Lin Feng felt that appearance and temperament were too deceiving. Yin Hu didn't know what he was thinking. After he tidied himself up, he turned and said, "When you were asleep, your phone rang. It should be a call from home, but I didn't receive it. Call Mom in a while." I know. Calling her mother was getting smoother. This guy. Lin Feng put on his belt watch. Indeed, after he grew up, his temperament came out. Now he walked out, looking like one of those young headhunters often seen in movies. But he was too good looking. His chiseled face gave off the vibe of a playboy. Such a person was the most likely to attract love. But he didn't know it. Yin Hu's gaze deepened. When the person turned his head, he kissed him. Lin Feng was still tidying up his watch. His scalp went numb and his legs went soft. In the end, his breathing was unstable. He leaned his head on Yin Hu's shoulder. His face was hot, but he was happy. Life after marriage. It wasn't scary. In the past, he thought about what would happen if they didn't get along well. After all, they were both men. The process from brothers to lovers wasn't simple. Sometimes he would think about what if one of them was tired of it and wanted to give up. Now it seemed unlikely. He glanced at the other girls on the way. He would whisper, "What's the use? I can't kiss you until your legs go soft." Or, "Almighty Lin Feng wants to betray us." In the past, he didn't think Yin Hu would feel uneasy. The more they interacted, the more Lin Feng understood. Uneasiness was relative. Because they cared, they had their own uneasiness. But this person would hold hands with him on the streets, not caring about other people's gazes. Even if it was a business occasion, he would bring him home. He couldn't be too obvious because both of them were mature and understood the rules of society. But as long as it was necessary, he would not deliberately conceal it. Thanks to the appearance of this person. Enough for him to like for many years. It was different from the way she dated Lin Feng and Yin Hu. In the villa, Bojio was about to leave after her shower. After Qin Mo grabbed her, he took the hairdryer over and let her lie on his long legs. The young butler often felt that his young master was no different from raising Miss Jio when he was young. The only difference was that ninth young mistress loved to tease their young master. Qin Mo glanced down at the person who had reached out to touch his ear. His ascetic aura didn't diminish. After he removed the hairdryer, he lowered his body and said in a voice that only the two of them could hear, "Almighty Z, behave yourself unless you want to return to bed." Bojio paused. A wise man submits to circumstances and retracted her hand. Forget it. She would just admire his beauty. Don't get touchy. Even if your heart is itching, you have to endure it. Chapter 1651. Little Bojio. MH. Do you really want children? MH. 2 years later, it's not good for your health. Alright. That was what Bojio promised him. But when he received a call from the superintendent on 5th Avenue, he needed his help. Bojio stood up and laughed lightly. You go, I'll bring Beauty Lin and little Mo Bay around. It was true that they were going around. But it was also true that they were going to the Black brothers' place. When the Black brothers saw the familiar Lamborghini, their first reaction was to leave. But that person's driving skills were too good. With a beautiful swing of the tail, he blocked them in the corner. The Black brothers. Seriously, they were unlucky. Hey brother. The Black brothers. Who's your brother? Have a chat? Bojio smiled. Okay. The Black brothers. As if they could reject. They went over and squatted at the corner. They had never been treated like this when the superintendent chased them. I have something to do now. Bojio stood there, leaning against the sports car. She was low-key and black, but she was as evil as a vampire aristocrat. The Black brothers spoke in a foreign language. What is it? Bojio unwrapped a lollipop and placed it in her mouth. My one doesn't want children. The Black brothers. Wait a minute. Was there something wrong with their hearing? Her one? The demoness had someone? Who exactly was it? They really wanted to take a look. They were really impressed. They were really impressed. Do you have anything that can make people submit without hurting them? Bojio lowered her voice. When the African-American brother heard this, he had already imagined a drama. For example, the other party must be a pretty boy and especially handsome. But this person definitely wouldn't dare to interact with the demoness. Of course, the demoness was indeed beautiful. But now they had to use a supplementary item to force themselves on her. This was indeed a little. They didn't know if the other party was lucky or unlucky. The Black brothers glanced at each other. They still had a conscience and didn't want to push her into the sea of fire. However, Bojio knew them too well. She laughed again and played with the lighter in her hands. It seems like you really have it. As expected of the street tyrants. Why would a street tyrant be blocked by you? Are you praising me or insulting me? The Black brothers had mixed feelings. After all this witch's methods, come tell me. Bojio smiled brightly. What is it? Which one of your shops has it? The Black brothers felt that if they weren't, the man would have thrown the lighter directly into the oil barrel next to him. In order to survive, they immediately straightened their bodies and pulled out the oil barrel. It's too expensive, it's not worth it. The Black brothers. You're still bargaining? We've known each other for a few years and we're all brothers. Won't you feel guilty if I don't give you a discount? Bojio glanced down, her fair hand hanging by the side of the tub. The Black brother immediately said, 10% off. You're a good brother. Bojio patted his shoulder. You're so generous, I'm embarrassed. The Black brother. Hurry up and leave. You're smiling so much that your eyes are curved. You don't look embarrassed at all. Bojio found what she wanted and whistled in a good mood. She sat in the car and waved at them. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.